Welcome to Headlines. This is David Lichtenstein here in the Yeshiva Shalom with an hour or sometimes an hour and a half of Torah, Halacha, Hashkafa. So this week, sometimes something happens that makes you weak. Last week we asked the halachic shaila about Esther. I'm not going to say the shaila over again. Anybody wants to listen, they could listen to last week's. And I got a haskama on the question from the Yeshiva, Rabbi Gurwitz, the big guy, and listen to this caller.
Hello, Shalom Avrocha, David. It's speaking here, young man from Gateshead in England. I spoke already in the past to you. Thank you very much again for the wonderful shiurim. It's amazing. Every week is full of chidushim. Koi lechi, it's a geweldige Sache. Regarding to your kasha last week about Achashverosh and Esther, that before she wasn't anymore an anusa, since they had the opportunity that he should be killed through big son of Ezras. I discussed this question with the famous Rosh Yeshiva of Gateshead, Hagor and Rabbi Shlita, just now, a few minutes ago, and finally said it's a very good case. He doesn't really have an answer. We did discuss all the different studies that, first of all, we need to have a raya that if they had the opportunity to get rid of him, if that makes her called from now not an anusa, who says maybe will be a good thing to do it, but it's not mochach that she's not called an anusa. Maybe she still could be an anusa, because at the end of the day, she's an anusa. Only by kasher vadati, that was the real kotzen. Also, we said it's told them that maybe it would be a sakona lamaisa for them not to say, because in case, they'll find out that Motza did know about it, and he didn't say anything, that will be a sakona. It could be a Achashverosh felt he has to, it could be Mordechai felt that he has to say. So there's all different stodim, lekan, but finally it seems in the end that the kash was better than the teretz. And he said, the great Rosh Yeshiva of Gateshead, and Rabbi Shlita, that he doesn't really know how to answer. So I really hope to hear from you what other listeners had answers. I hope in the next show you'll have what more to say about it, since it's a very interesting question. Thank you very much, Reb David.
Now, for Yeshiva Bacha to get a haskama from Avram Gurwitz, it made my whole week. I was floating. So we got a lot of answers. If you go to the website, we put them almost all up. We probably got 100 calls on it. And the most popular answer is that Esther herself would have been killed, so she still had a din of an anusa. And I guess it works, the teretz, that if it's pikuach nefesh, there's a din of karka olam again, she's allowed to do it. But here's the issue that I have with that teretz, just as a yeshiva bacha. In the Litta, the lumdim of the world, they didn't believe in making ukimtas to answer a question, in changing, adding, and bringing a new fact into the equation. In other parts of the world, they would have a question, they would say, and they would give an ukimta. In the Litta, they tried to do it with lumdis. And here we're changing, we're saying, well, she would have also died. But I think the teretz definitely works. But we had so much interest in answering your questions. I figured, let me ask you, I have so many brilliant listeners here. Let me ask another question. There's a famous Yesod from Reb Chaim, and the Brisker Rav in the Sefer in Hilchos Chanukah talks about it. Barichas, similar topic. Reb Chaim said, he asked a question. He would ask in the yeshiva, if you had two esrogim, you had an esrig that it was gorgeous, it was a hadar, it was stunning, it was a problem. Maybe it was a murkav, you didn't know. Then you had a real humble, simple $10 esrig, not at all nice, but it was kasha, but the Evid kasha. what do you make the bracha on? The beautiful esrog or the kasha? Now, it's a little bit of a trick question because most people would say, well, you can't take the risk of not being yaitziv. Of course, you make on the kasha. And Rabbi Chaim said, no, that's wrong. He said, you make on the hadar, and then you put it down, and then you pick up the kasher. So mamanashach. If the hadar is kasher, so you did the mitzvah, behidurei. If it's not, then you had the kasher. So somebody asked Rabbi Chaim, said, why don't you do it the other way? First do the kasher, and then do the hadar. So Rabbi Chaim said, no. Once you pick up the b'di'evet esrog and you yaitza, you were yaitza. And then if you pick up the hadar, you can't have hidur mitzvah after the mitzvah, what you were yaitza the mitzvah. That's the side of Reb Chaim. Briskerov talks similar, makes a machlokes, Rambam, Torah, etc. in Hanukkah. So here's the question. From Purim, you have a raya not like Reb Chaim. Why? What's the halacha? If you heard more than 51% of the Megillah, or certainly, according to some shitas, more than that, let's say it would be 80%, and then you missed 10 or 20 psukim and you said them from a chumash, yaitza. The whole Megillah does not have to be min aksav, like, let's say, like Kriyas HaTorah. So let me ask you a question. Let's say the last pasuk of the Megillah, Umar Chayatza, let's say the Balkaira would run out of shul. He got a Hatzalah call, and he doesn't read. So the whole Olam says the last pasuk, they're about to finish the Megillah, and everybody says again, Umar Chayatza, Bovosh Malchus, and then the Balkaira runs out on Hatzalah call. He never finishes. Would you be Yaitza Megillah? The answer is yes, because you said it from a chumash. It's just one pasuk out of the hundreds of psukim, so Yaitza. So it comes out, what happens? First, everybody says it, and you Yaitza b'di'evet. Then afterwards, the Balkaira reads it outside from the Megillah, and then you Yaitza l'chatchila. So, according to Reb Chaim, once you said it from the chumash, the last pasuk, and you Yaitza b'di'evet, so then the Balkaira reading it afterwards doesn't help. So they should have been misakin the other way. First the Balkaira reads it, everybody's yaitza, and then you should read it. The fact that this minig, which goes back 1,000 years, which is that everybody reads it, and yaitza b'di'evet, and then the Balkaira reads it, you have a kasha, a beferish raya from a minig Yisrael, neged the yisoid of Reb Chaim Briska. And Reb Chaim also did this in Brisk, this minig. So you got to believe that he had an explanation for this. So I put it out there to my many brilliant listeners, co-lumdim, Talmidei Chachamim, or whoever you are, bright people. How do you answer the kasha? Reb Chaim says, by esrog, once you yaitza, you can't have hidur. By Megillah, we see the exact opposite from our minig. First, we yaitza b'di'evet, and then afterwards, the Balkaira says it. So, according to Reb Chaim, according to that, first pick up the kasher, and then do the hadar. I await responses. Before we start, I would like to say, this week we're going to be talking about beards, and we're going to be speaking with Rabbi Litwack, Rabbi Hillel Litwack. He is one of the great writers. He was very involved with Rabbi Wiener, who wrote Hadras Panim Zaken, who we tried to get on the show, but we got Rabbi Litwack. He was also very involved for 30 or 40 years. He's been writing and darshaning about the importance of beards. And I apologize in advance. I have the biggest cover that's higher of him. This is an interview that I heard got a little bit lebedik. So all of you who think I didn't treat it Talmud enough, derech I'm sorry. It was riska d'oraisa. But it's a very lively debate we're going to have about beards. Now, I personally, halachically, I think I have a beard. At least halachically, I don't shave. If I use the number 3 or number 4, it's not called shaving. You can bend it over. So I'm taking this pashut else. It's a debate, la halacha, and afterwards we will have a discussion with Rabbi Applebaum. What in the Torah can you teach to children? What couldn't you? Are there topics that are off limits? We've spoken about this in the past. He's a very popular and respected mechanech from Eretz Yisrael. That will be the second topic today. I would like to say a word before we go to our main thing about this week's parsha. This week's parsha talks about the marays hatzayvais, the holy makeup mirrors. What does the pasuk say in Vayakil? It says that they brought the makeup mirrors. Vayas es hakir nechoshes. the Marais Hatzayvais, the women brought their makeup mirrors that were made out of copper. They didn't have glass mirrors in those days, I guess. And they brought them, and Moshe made the kier, which stands at the entrance. You couldn't go in without being the Skadish. You couldn't go to the Mishkan without being the Skadish near, and he made it out of makeup mirrors. So it's interesting. You have here a very big machlokes, the Even Ezra and Ramban, and it's a machlokes that resonates 2,000 years later, or maybe 2,000 years later. What does the Even Ezra say here? He says most women like to beautify themselves in the morning. Derech hanashim l'syapos b'boker b'maris d'chaychshes. And what is it talking about? There were holy women, oivdeis Hashem, that had no interest in Taivas Olam, and they gave away their makeup mirrors. They became babushkas. They became holy, women. Ki ein lehem tzorech oid l'syapos. They had no interest anymore in beauty. Rak boy, they used to come yom Pesach el moed l'sval. So what does the Maris Tzayvis mean according to Even Ezra? Women, throw away your mirrors. Become holy. That's how the Even Ezra learns. And Rashi HaKadosh, I say HaKadosh with a dogish under it, goes in an entirely different direction. He says, the B'nai Yisrael, they had Maris that they used to look at when they were miskashtes, when they got made up. And even those they brought to the Mishkan. And Moshe got mad at them. He said, but this was for the Yetz Hara. I don't want to use that for the Kier. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kabel, take them. Ki elu chavivin alayim min hakel. These are the most precious. Why? Because the women made themselves beautiful that we had to have a nation. It says when the men were exhausted, b'avodas perach, they came home from a miserable day of work. What did they do? They would take the maris and they would show their husband how beautiful they made themselves. And they would try to talk their husbands into calming down, into getting out of the stress of the day. And they would say, Ani noam mimcha, look how beautiful I am, more than you. And that way, the husbands, it created an intimacy in the house. And that's the pshat. Tachas tatapuach oirarticha, we say in Heilige Shir Hashirim, I aroused you under the tapuach. Rashi says, brings a chazal, this was with the Maris Hatzayves. And Rabbi Shalom said, what is more holy than this intimacy that was created by the women who beautify themselves? Diametrically opposed. The holiest thing, Rashi, the Rabbi Shalom was telling Moshe, is what? The fact that the women beautify themselves. They were able to create intimacy. Even Ezra, throw away the makeup mirrors. That's not the way a holy, totally different direction. So let's go with Rashi. And I want to ask the following thing on Rashi. The entrance to the Mishkan, I understand it's important, but the entrance, the kier, was made out of makeup mirrors? And I want to suggest the pshat. I want to say that, the Mishkan, I'll say a little bit drush, but it says, V'asuli migdash, Rashi says, Lishmi beis kedusha. And then V'chein tasus, Rashi says, L'doiris, the Mishkan is forever. And Ramban says, forever, the Klei Mishkan, maybe some will like it in the base, but he asks, L'doiris? But we also know that the Jewish home is a Mishkan. And who's the first one to call the Jewish home a Mishkan? Bilam. Rabbi Oivai Techakmeni. What did Bilam say? Matoivu ayalecha Yaakov, Mishkan Eisecha. He saw the Jewish homes. There wasn't Pischa and Shalzeh. Can I get Pischa and Shalzeh? He's the first one. Right? So Rashi says, he made it, we put it by the door of the Mishkan. So what does Rashi say? V'asuli migdash. Rashi says, L'doiros v'chein tasu. The Jewish home is a Mishkan forever. And you know what it says? And there are other proofs to this. It says when Hashem makes Adam, it says, Vayichad echad mitzaloisav. So the Medrash says, K'moedik sivul etzala ha-Mishkan. I have many other ayahs. It says the Gimel Nisim that happened by Hillel, by Rivka, who says the same Gimel Nisim the Rishonim say happened in the Beis Hamikdash, near Daluk, near Maravi, etc. So the Jewish home is called a Mishkan. And by the entrance to the Mishkan, we put the kier. What does that mean? Rashi says of the Maris Hatzayves. if you want to have a holy home, an established home, a solid, the foundation is intimacy, good relations with a husband and wife. You can't build a house. You cannot create a mishkan with a husband and wife who do not have a rock-solid foundation of ahava and intimacy. To get into the mishkan, to go into the Pesach mishkan, you had to take the water that was diskadish with the maris hatzayves. And I think it's a very powerful current lesson because we live in a world where intimacy has become a thing of the past. We have a president who every hour is being served with another lawsuit from some other, whatever. We can't even say the words of what type of fears, etc., etc. So intimacy is derided. The marriage rate in the United States is the lowest it's ever been. There are more children born out of wedlock than in the history of this country. Intimacy has become a thing of the past. What does the Torah say? It's the holiest thing. You want to create a mishkan, there has to be intimacy. And when we're makadosh a wife, what do we say? We don't say harei knuyali, nachlasi, one of the 50 lashonos. We say harei mekudeshesli, and that is with intimacy, with a wife who uses the maris hatzayves to beautify, and a husband who appreciates it. You know, it's interesting. We say kol hashirim. I'm going to get into trouble for this. I want to say hagdama. I use Art Scroll every day. I use this Sfarim, the Chumashim, the Gemaras. I think they're fantastic. It says, Kol, right, Hashirim Kodesh, Shir Hashirim is Kodesh Kadashim. Right? Kol Sfarim Kodesh, Shir Hashirim is Kodesh Kadashim. Why is it that the Rabbi Shalom uses the mashal of an Ish V'Isha as a mashal to the intimacy of Klal Yisrael and Kaviyachal? Right? So Shir Hashirim is supposed to be a mashal. And what did Art Scroll do? They took Shir Hashirim and they said, what? I mean, and again, I love Art Scroll. To imagine that a relationship between a husband and wife on a physical level can be so amazing? It can't be. So what do they say? Tachas hatapuach tichan har Sinai, we saw malachim. They take the whole Shir Hashirim and they change it. You know, I heard years ago, when there was a lot of Yiddish, writings, Yiddish theater, so somebody took the Shakespeare and they translated it. So he said, the writings of William Shakespeare, right? Ibegeteicht und verbessert, translated and made better by Zalman Platnikovich. Right? Shakespeare Ibegeteicht, vergresset und verbessert by Zalman Platnikovich, which is very humorous. And I think that to take Shir Hashirim and to say, the way the Rabbi Shalom made it, we don't like it. We want to make it holier. We want to make it Ibegeteicht, vergresset and verbessert. I don't know. I think Art Scroll's fantastic, but we could disagree with something they do. It's not, we have a right to. We're Jewish. We have a right to disagree. So what is it? Some people today are noig like Devin Ezra. And what do they say? Throw away the mirrors, throw away the clothing. And others hold like Rashi. And what do they say? The holiest thing in the world, the foundation of a home, right? What does it say? What does it say in Shemais? V'layitein hamashchis lavoi el batechem lingaif. If you don't want the mashchis in, you better have a real good intimacy. The maris hatzayves, most holy thing to get into the house. Okay, before we start with beards, I just want to give a little bit of Hagdama before we go to our guests. And I want to say that there's really two mahalchim that I come away with it. I'm going to give you my opinion for whatever it's worth. But, we're going to speak with Rabbi Litwack a lot of Halacha. Last week we spoke with 3 other Rabbanim we had on from Chabad. He said, from the Tzemach Tzedek, Al Pi Kabbalah. And he said, Al Pi Halacha leSilbash. And then we had from Satma, they said it's a Geder. And I want to give you my takeaway. Halachically, we're going to bring 20 different Gedolei Olam, including the greatest, the Asra of America, until Mashiach comes, Ramesha, who said it's not a problem shaving. And last week, we had from the Holy Hasidim, they said, look at us. We didn't lose anybody. the places where they shaved their beards, a lot of people became frei. There's something to it as the Malbush. Here's a very interesting thing. I learned in the Mir, and I had the great honor of learning with two of Reb Nachum's, the great Mir Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Nachum Pertzavitz's son-in-laws, or sons-in-law. And none of them had a beard while Reb Nachum was conscious, while he was like sort of around. And one of them explained it to me. They said in the Mir they held, in the Litta, by the way, and it wasn't just the Mir. In Volozhin you weren't allowed to grow a beard. Radin, almost nobody had a beard, even though the Chaim had written about it. And in the Mir was sort of nobody had a beard in the Mir. And they used to say in the Litta that what? The beard was for a siman of a Hadras Panim Zakin, of a Talmud Chacham, of a Adam Chashav. So Nachum said, he said, in the Mir, if you look in the mirror in the morning and you have a beautiful beard and beautiful, so you say, "Was darf ich schon mehr lernen? Why do I have to learn today? I'm already an Adam Gadol." So he didn't let his sons-in-law grow beards. He himself had a short-term beard. You wake up in the mirror, you look at yourself in the morning, and you say, "You know what? Well, you wake. I better go learn. I have to do something. I don't want to rely on chitzonius to prevent me. Adarab, it's a mechayev. Go, right?" On the other hand, in the Chassidish world, they felt a beard is like, it places a bad. It's a mavdil bein us and the Umay Sa'ilam. So two totally different shittas. So I think the halachic debate is interesting, but it's certainly, you can hear enough shittas one way, enough shittas the other way. To me, it's more of a shaila at this point of, what your Messiah is, what your Ashkafa was, what your halacha was. But now I'm not talking about all shavers. Rosh shavers, according to Rabbi, that would be very problematic today if the shaver has a particularly sharp blade. But let me stop talking, giving you my opinion. Let's go to Rabbi Litwack. And again, I hold he's a tremendous Yerushalayim, Talmud Chacham, 100 times more than me. If it's arguing, it's just that I'm a Yeshiva Bacha. This is what we would talk, the Rizcha Dairaisa. Let's go to our guest. We have on the phone with us from New York City, Rabbi Hillel Litwack. He's a grandson of the Baal Nezer HaKodesh, who was very close to the Chazon Ish, one of the first Rabbanim in America. And he is the sort of the editor, the Ma'arech of the famous Ezras Torah Luach. He's been involved with the Shaila of electric shavers now for more than 40 years, has made it almost a lifetime work. Welcome, Reb Hillel.
Yes.
Rabbi Litwack, tell us, can we use shavers? Can we use an electric shaver? What is your research told us?
Well, I'll tell you the history, my own experience. I never used an electric shaver. I always used powder because I heard the Chaim was held as an Issa Deraisa. But I didn't know more till Rabbi Wiener confronted me, and he's writing a sefer on this, so I contacted Eretz Yisrael to see what the G'dalim in Eretz Yisrael hold. The skona was the top Rav in Yerushalayim is Be'er Shpesa Frank, and the sefer he said it's muttar, but when the machines got very close, his Talmidim said he held that it's tar. And also there's a letter from Rav Hirsch Besser Frank to Rabbi saying that now that it's very close, takes off everything, it's a tar. Of a Yashiv, also deraisa.
So wait. Okay, can I interrupt you? The letter to Rav Breish, Rav Breish, I believe, in his answer himself says that he said he remarks on the stira of the prior opinion of Rav Tzvi Pesach, and he says Rav Tzvi Pesach must be talking about, since he's afraid you're going to press down very hard, so the skin will go beneath the shield, and since the skin will be beneath the shield, the blade will be cutting directly against the skin, and that is an isitar.
Yeah, and I have a letter from a Chaim Rav Frank and Talmidim that he asked it. They don't say, it seems that Frank held that if you don't press, you could use it, which a lot told is very dangerous in case you forget and press. You have a 5 lavin.
Right.
Important to mention 5 lavin is because it is worse than an issa skila. in Shin Chav Ches Chaim, talking about an Avera. So a lot don't hold. It's a very dangerous Eitzah. Frank probably meant it because a lot of people were not going to listen anyways. He said, "Don't press." Yankim Kamenetsky also used to say, "Don't press," because. But the Eitzah of not pressing is not an Eitzah for everybody because, number one, a lot of people want a close shave. So that's why they use these, they got used to this style of life. It's a convenience. It's like telling someone, don't use electricity, use candles. Don't use a car, use a horse. It became a style of life to everyone. And if you tell them that electricity is also, they think, what's going on here? You're telling me so many people in Klal Yisrael over 5'11" can't be. They got so used to this style of life that they can't understand that it's awesome. And why?
But when you say it's usher, Rabbi Litwack, there were many gedolim who are matter it.
Oh, this is the major point. The only the famous matter is Rosh. Now, from the gedolim, Rav Henkin or Rav Yosef mentioned is not true. Rav Henkin used to open up the machine, and he had certain tests he made. Not tests, he was looking for something. We don't know what it is. He was nifta 30, 40 years ago, and we don't know his test. Rav seemed to hold. Rav Yosef held this.
Wait. Let's go way before that, okay? Let me give you a list of like 20 Rabbanim who are matir, okay?
Yeah.
This Reb Chaim was matir.
Wait, that I have to stop immediately because Rabbi Zimmerman told me he was a shliach of Tiferes when the Shik Sheva came out. When the Shik Sheva came out, he was on the way to Europe. So the Rosh of Tiferes gave him the Shik Sheva and to show it to Reb Chaim. And this is what Rabbi Zimmerman wrote. I said I'd like to have it in writing. This is his handwriting. Ani roitze bezel idea ki b'yesi bevilna brach shnas Tiferes tzadikei oy Tiferes tzadgvov heresi Shik Sheva l'rashke b'hag Reb Chaim Zatzal b'shlichus mesifta Tiferes b'shamaiti b'brirus shuloi hitte b'shuvosei lahem. When he gave me the letter, he said to me, you could show it then when you want, but don't make a whole piercing out of it.
Oh,
so
but
I have to continue. But when he was nifta, I asked his son, now that he was nifta, can I be mefarsim it now? So he said he doesn't know what to answer. He doesn't know why he said not to mefarsim. So I sent a copy to Chaim Kanevsky, and I said, brought him this shaila, should we be mefarsim? The answer of Chaim Kanevsky was, yesh lefarsim.
Okay, so let me...
This is the letter of Chaim not matter, Okay,
the Tshuvas Van Huggis in two different places says that Reb Chaim was matter the machine, a shaver, and he says, and it's like the shaver we have today, and he says he heard this directly from his father, who heard it from Reb Chaim. He brings it in Chelik Aleph, Siman Taf Nun Tes, right? And he also brings.
I'm not aware of that because
I'm giving hello.
I hear. But I hear what you're saying.
On our site, the copy of both Tshuvas.
No, we have a problem today because Rav Shua, Yitzchak Meir Shua's father spoke to Chaim and the maskana was that he shouldn't use it.
Okay, so let me
we have a question. No, but we have a letter here from the Ksav Yad from Bosh Zimmerman, and he.
Well, you have a Ksav Yad from the Tshuvas on Huggis in two places, and I don't know who Bosh Zimmerman was, but I know that
he was the Rav. He was the Rav. Oh yeah, but the point is not that. I'll tell you the whole story.
Is the Av Bezdin of Yerushalayim, and the Baal.
He says that. He says that.
He says it in two places, I'm telling you. Chelik Aleph Siman Taf Nun Tes, we'll bring it both on our, put it both on our website. He says it twice, that Reb Chaim was matter, and he says Reb Chatzkel Abramsky was matter too. So let me go through those.
Which machines?
Okay, Okay, so let me go through those who were matter. Chaim, according to the Chuvas on Haggis, was matter. According to Rav Chatzkel Abramsky, was matter. The Eirach Mishpat from Rav Kook, we'll put the letter on the site, was matter. The Reb Tzvi Michelson in Varsha, the Rav of Varsha, the Baal Tirish V'Yitzer was matter. Reb David Hoffman, the Melamed Lahayel was matter. These I'm going through sort of from the beginning and sort of the older ones and the new ones. Reb Azriel Hildesheimer was matter. The Magen Shol was matter. The Rav Henkin was matter, right?
Rav Henkin was only matter with. All right.
It's two Svarim is brought. The Yagel Yaakov and the Eidos Yisrael. Rabbi Yonason Steif was matter, right?
Deretzina, they have to start. Deretzina says Rabbi Yonason Steif acid. So we have questions with Rabbi Yonason Steif. Okay. He brings in a safe Rabbi Yonason Steif acid.
Okay, I'll quote the letters from Rabbi Yonason Steif. I'll put them online. The Divrei Yatziv, the Kloisenberger Rebbe was matter. On the Sfardim side, Rabbi Tzion Abishol was matter. Rabbi Bazuz was matter. Rabbi Vadia Yosef in his Chuvis was matter. And most famously is Ramosha was matter. And so you have here 20 Rabbanim.
All right.
The biggest of all, obviously, being Ramosha, who was, the giant.
So now let's go to Ramosha
of America. You know what I mean? So
let's go to Ramosha. Let's go to Ramosha.
Yeah.
Ramosha was matter, and one of his Talmidim told me that he called up a Talmud of the Chaim from Radin. Goes back, has to be a long time ago, and asked him, is it true that the Chaim Hasid? That Rav said that, no, it's not true, it's only a chumrah. So I called him up, that Rav, and I said, the Lashon of the Chofetz Chaim in the Kutei Halachos Makis is the same Lashon uses by Lashon Hara. He started telling me Chilukim, but then, so I said, all right, I didn't understand the chiluk, but I couldn't argue. But then I took out a Chofetz Chaim Lashon Hara, turned the page, and I said, isn't this Omer? He says the same exact Lashon that he says over there. So he said to me, he didn't have an answer. But then I said the Stipler, or somebody Gdolim say that the Chofetz Chaim Asid. So he said that he didn't have an answer, but the point is that when I told him about the other Gdolim, he said it can't be Asid. He was very mad at the one who wrote that Sefer. I don't want to mention his name, but I know the reason why, and this, everyone has the problem. When he was Nifta, I went to him in Menachem Ovalim. I saw his son. A lot of these Rosh Yeshivos or Abonim have sons that are very modern. And they can't, you're telling me that my son is over 5'11"? Wrong with him. He's worse than Be'el Eshazis, so they get to kocht, and they're ready to mavazag the Yisrael. Wrong with him. Someone made a tape that Rish Pesach Frank, one of my sons told me, he heard a tape from a Chosher Yid, a very, very Chosher Yid. And it says on the tape, the Rish Pesach Frank was mat. So I sent him the letter from a Chaim Frank, told me to say that he took back because now it's very close. I have a letter from a Chaim Frank because Frank was a mechutin to my grandfather, so he answered me right away. And the Lashon there is that it's tar, brown, a Mesheva called brown. And so I sent him the list of G'dalim that Aseret. The list of G'dalim that Aseret that I sent him was Chofetz Chaim, Zaynish. I probably sent him also Chaim Oiza, and all other G'dalim. So then I call him up, and he says to me, with a kas, I received your stuff, but now Yeshiva will use it. Now, how does he call G'dalim stuff? What I see is that no Rosh Yeshiva, no Rav has the door open to say that it's awesome. A Rosh Yeshiva has a whole Yeshiva using it. A Rosh Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael said that if I'll say it's awesome, all the Bochum going to run away. The Yesod is no Rosh Yeshiva and Rav was even Meir the Shaila. Why don't you say you can't say?
You
can't say there's no shaila.
Rabbi Litwack,
what I'm trying to say is I'm not ready to listen that Moshe is matter because he got the wrong information.
So Rabbi Litwack, are you saying that Moshe was matter because he was afraid he wouldn't have bachram in his yeshiva?
No, chas v'shalom. He was matter because he held his muttar. He held that Mitzrayim King Tar, that the Shulchan Aruch says, means even if it takes off everything, right?
Right.
But you look at the Chofetz Chaim when he speaks to the army men, he says there's a problem with the army men. They wanted them to take off the beard. How are you going to take it off? So he says to them in Machne Yisrael, if the government is zufrieden with Mitzrayim Kein Tar, then if Mitzrayim Kein Tar is zufrieden, then you have no problem. But if they're not zufrieden, either use powder or you have to do it al yedei guy. You could tell from the Lashon, if Mitzrayim Kein Tar meant a clean shave, he wouldn't speak to an army man like that. It was ungenommen by Klal Yisrael that Mitzrayim Kein Tar meant, by Chofetz Chaim Zicha, Mitzrayim Kein Tar meant a unclean shave. There's no doubt about it. It's over Poshet. And in Makut Halachas Makas, what he says is also Mefurish, that Mitzrayim Kein Tar must, he can't say he's Chelek on the Shulchan Aruch. It should mean the Chofetz Chaim who's the Pesach Achron. It's a sakona for Klal Yisrael. I'm talking to Bnei Torah now. I'm not talking.
Hello,
to
Rabbi Litwack. Rabbi Litwack,
yeah.
let me say. So, in the opinion of the Chofetz Chaim, there's Tiferes, because in the Sefer Chesed L'Avram, right, to his son-in-law Rabbi Aaron HaKohen, which was printed in the life of the Chofetz Chaim, right, in the Hashmatas to the country's Dvarim Ne'imim, he says his father-in-law said you can use a machine.
No, that was a machine then. He didn't have today's machines.
I'm sorry?
They didn't have.
I'll read what he writes. Achri Sharab Chaim Esigi Luach Betar Yisra Adam Blatzmi Lebal Yigalech B'Shum Oifin Betar Rak Al Yidei Mashinka Mistaperes Oy Al Yidei Sam. So they have some type of a machine then. It was called a tzvicker. I don't know. Maybe it was a manual machine. I don't know, a wind-up machine. And his son-in-law writes that he did allow it. And it caused a lot of... Wait, so there's a steer in what the Chofetz Chaim meant.
Yeah, he said good you brought it up, because he's talking about, he said the Yitzhahara was mechadish, a new machine that's very close. That means in the time they wrote that, there was no such machine.
No.
The machine, I'll tell you the story with what Reb Gershon Zak, the Einikel Chofetz Chaim, heard from his father. Reb Mendel Zak told him that the machine that he acid, and this, the Reb Chaim Ozer was matter that machine because it left over something. He called it nothing, because he held it mashchis. Everyone held a Mitzrayim that takes off, makes the face clean is also. Chas v'shalom to say the Chofetz Chaim was matter. This is the Lashon of Gershon Zak speaking to me.
I understand that, but...
Wait. Then it got closer. You're talking about a different shaila. That Shik Sheva was brought to Reb Chaim Ozer. So you're saying that the truth is, I never heard of that, but Reb Moshe Zimon, but if it makes the face clean, then if a machine makes the face clean, then how could you say that the Chofetz Chaim, when the Chofetz Chaim was speaking in Tiferes Odom, he was giving Musa to Klal Yisrael that you shouldn't use a razor. He says the Nesayin is Yefi. Person wants to look clean. Why didn't the Hillel Chofetz Chaim say, get a machine cut clipper, it makes your face clean? What is the problem? What is the Nesayin here?
That's called a kasha.
It's a very evident kasha.
But
if there was a machine that was muttar, then in his time he would have been mefarsim. Why don't you take this clipper and you have a clean shave?
Rabbi Litwack, let me read the lashon of the Chassam Sofer. Okay, this isn't the Chassam Sofer and the Chilos U'Tshuvos. It's in Kufnun Tes when he was asked about cutting the beard, and his shayl said that it's a terrible thing to cut the beard. So some Sefer says, Lo yadati maha Rosh hagadol hazeh. I don't know what's the big rash about cutting the beard. L'chuna v'nivachacha. Let's go see. If it's because of chukas hagayim, he says avada there's no shaila of chukas hagayim. He says a whole arichas, and he says, and he brings a raya. He says, look at all the hamoinim of Italy. Megulche zakan. He says, V'nitlin, and who they saimach on, Be'ilan Gadol, Reb Menachem Azariah, Bali Asara Mamanis, he calls him Avia Mekubalim, Shehu Haya Megulach, he was shaven, Mibli Hishir Sara Echad, without a single hair. V'chein Hayadalav, the Rikanti, V'chein Hayashalvish Chachmir Kabarim, so he says, even then, you're going back now 500 years ago.
Right, but who says it's talking about a Mitzrayim, not a shaver. Like
what did they have? A misparayim means a scissor. That's what they used in those days, like the Shulchan Aruch.
Right, but didn't take off everything.
He says mibli hishir sara echad. There was nothing left.
Well, let me ask you. In the truest Sefer Chaim, he says that the misparayim that takes off everything is tar. Tar le'ksiv b'kro elolei sashkes. Chazal Omru en Luach sheyesh b'eshchos el b'tar misparayim.
Right.
He named the Cyrus Hanishorim. Acha Giluach Hazug, having command the Lessay, Arei Hishchis. He said Mefurish that misparayim that takes off everything is tar.
Where are you? You're in Kufnun Tess?
No. What he meant probably is if you use powder.
Where is this?
Does he say misparayim that takes off everything?
He doesn't say misparayim.
They're talking about powder. They used to use powder in this time. I don't know what to bring here. He's talking about, in those days, the Elochi didn't use powder. They didn't use misparayim that takes off everything. If misparayim takes off everything as much, they would have been mafarsim.
You're telling me there was a powder in the year 1500 or the 1400?
Yeah.
No.
It says that the time of Ned Yehuda brings that powder is muttar because it's, even though it's hashchosa, but it's not giluach. One thing you see right away from the Ned Yehuda that you don't need tar. Because why does he have to say? What did
the Ned Yehuda write? Say that again. I apologize.
Ned Yehuda says that powder to take off the hair is muttar because it's not giluach, even though it's hashchosa. So you see from Ned Yehuda this yesod that you don't need tar. You don't need tar because why do you have to say it's not giluach? He would say, listen, Sam is not tar.
So
he would say Sam is not tar. The one thing you see for sure from him. That you don't need tar. Anything that takes off everything is awesome.
The Sam Seif is talking about misparayim in tar. He says it beferish.
I'm talking this.
And he says Lahisher Sarah Echa. That's the lashon of Sam Seifer.
That's
so wait, Rabbi Litwack. So what
powder.
Misparayim kain tar does not mean powder. It means a scissor that's like a razor.
Misparayim kain tar cannot mean taking off everything. I'll tell you, it's impossible in Torah also. You know why? Because if you say misparayim kain tar, which is a shaver, is muttar by zokin, so like one day in Shulchan Aruch by Peis Rosh it's muttar, right? It means like one day you could take an electric shave and cut off the Peis Rosh. Ayat HaKofa. The Rosh. Look at the Rosh in Makis. Rosh and Makis says
Misparayim came. Misparayim came. There's Asa by Peis Rosh.
No, 2 days. It's a machlokes. It's a machlokes.
No.
It's machlokes.
The Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring the tzad that's matter.
The Shulchan Aruch brings a machlokes. If Peis Misparayim came tar is muttar by Peis Rosh. So like one day, misparayim came tar is muttar by Peis Rosh also, right?
Right.
Ayat HaKofa. How could you be masig that it's muttar? It's hard to say that you could take an electric shaver like one sheeta and cut off Peis Rosh. There's a mamash HaKofa. The Rosh in Makis in the back.
It's not HaKofa because it's not derech giluach.
You're saying that you're allowed to take.
According to this shita,
look at the Rosh. Look at the Rosh and Makis.
You need giluach. According to the tzad,
it's not giluach. Why isn't it giluach?
Because giluach means with a tar.
So if giluach means a tar, then Yehuda would have said Sam is muttar because it's not a tar. Why? All the place I'm a falpul if Sam is muttar not. Well, what's all pilpul? It's not tar.
By Peis Rosh, you're saying?
No, but Peis Zokin. because it's mashchis. If there was a din of tar, so then you'll look through 5-10 achrein the mafalpul if sam is mutter by payas hazokin.
Right.
Why are they mafalpul so much? Let them say, listen, you need tar.
I don't know. So what is the answer?
The answer is anything that's mashchis is awesome.
But the Gemara says not like that. The Gemara darshans, you need both. The Gemara brings two.
No, wait. Misparayim is mutter and nor makshei because it leaves over. B'shem Yerushalayim. So if it leaves over, the child here is misparayim. Anything that's mashchis is awesome. Misparayim is mutter because it's not a mashchis. They state in al Yerushalayim.
No, not because it is mashchis. It's just not.
How's it mashchis? The Mikki Yosef, they're trying to say, no, it says because it leaves over. Mikki Yosef there says, and the Rashi says, Rivon says there that it's mutter because it leaves over, 100%. Look at the Mikki Yosef there. Mikki Yosef Makkah says because it leaves over. Tenler told me that Ramesha holds, you're right, the reason why it's mutter is because it leaves over, but they plug, the Torah was matter, a misprime, if it works like a misparayim, even if it takes off everything. So if all the G'dalim held like that is a Munich Chacham, but to say that lay plug is a chiddush of Ramesha, that what do I need? I can tell you over. A Talmud of Rabbi said that everyone knows it. Moshe Heinemann knows it. He's Gainim, and someone showed him the face after, and he touched the face. He used to touch the face and over it. He said he's not masig haikvimata. He held any
Can I answer your question?
Wait, I'm telling you. Wait.
The whole Lakewood shaved. How did they do that?
Oh, yesking. That's why we're on. That's what we're talking about. This is everyone brings a raya from the kash. There's a kasha. How many kash could be that in Lakewood someone use it when the Heliger is behind them or the Asa use it? So what do people do? Say it's got to be mutter. So the answer to the kash. There's another answer. No, the answer is tell them to stop using it.
So you're saying Rabbi Aaron was didn't say anything to Yeshiva who are over 5 Yisuri Daraisa because he was intimidated of the Bachram.
No. So I asked this kasha to Rabbi Yankiv Karneski. I asked it. He's in Muncie. I said I didn't ask it myself. I said they steiner that you can't say Rabbi Aaron Asid because why wasn't he Meicha? So the Hillel Yankiv told me the starkite. It's no raya because the Baron did not know every machine they used. He used to test out. They used to come to him and used to see if it left over or not. He didn't know. That's what Yankiv told me.
But he
didn't. Those days, 50 years ago, he
couldn't look at the boys and see boys who had stubble and boys who didn't.
Instead of bringing rayas, why it's mutter? If you have 5 Adim that heard me piv, Belya Bevachvel heard me piv, that it's also. And he asked the Rabban, is this a chum or not? So you're going to say, why didn't he stop it? So therefore, it's a riot, it's matzah, so don't be meicha. Maybe he had a reason to be meicha. Oh, yeah.
So I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because it's inconceivable to me. You brought the Shulchan Aruch that says that has the same chaimer of Hilchos Shabbos, the 5 Lavin, right? So I'm telling you that if the boys were being Michal Shabbos in Lakewood, would Rabbi Aaron kept the yeshiva open to have the yeshiva?
Therefore, what do you have to do? You have to use it. I'm telling you what Rabbi Yankiv
told me. Telling you.
Why didn't Rabbi Yankiv say it? Why didn't Rabbi Yankiv say?
I don't know why, but I'll tell you what I heard.
I'll tell you what the real eighth is. I'll tell you, I'll kill cut as an anacle. He told me that I could announce in his name that his grandfather asked it.
So I'm asking you. So let me ask you.
Tell you what happened.
Let me ask you better. On Ramok Yilkatl, why don't you ask him? 90% of the boys in Lakewood shave, and according to
90%, Ged.
Okay, and they're being over on Chil Shabbos, the equivalent of Chil Shabbos. So why doesn't he close the yeshiva if he believes that he has the yeshiva for Mechal Shabbos? And don't tell me that he doesn't know that there's no stubble left. Okay?
Wait, listen. He and the other yeshivas gave letters to try, but he said that he writes there that his grandfather was Machmeh. And Reb Shnei, the son, told Moshe Wiener that whatever you write about my father is 100% true. That Baron Asid, I'll tell you over stories bringing up Rabbi.
But you're not answering. But Rabbi, let's stay with this
I'll
question.
tell you what the answer is. We have time of Eliyahu Hanavi. There was a Yitzhak Avodah Zarah, and Eliyahu Hanavi was going around telling him he had a. I told the Rav in New York. He said he holds it also. I said, yeah, you can ask for it, but run to a cave, and the Eibush will send over him. We are in a matter of a Yitzhak Avodah Zarah here. There's a Ruach of Heta, and everyone, he tells them, it's like something like Lashon Hara. Just yesterday, someone told me,
so wait, Rabbi, let's go back to Lashon Hara. You're telling me that Ramalkiel Kotla is keeping the yeshiva in Lakewood open, where all the Bachram are Machal Shabbos, because it's like Israel, there's nothing you can do.
So I'll tell you what the answer is.
I'll tell you what the answer is. You tried.
What are you going to say? If they ask on Kill Kotla, what is grandfather held?
I don't know, but I'm asking you, so what's the answer? They're keeping
No, what people do is, they say we have this kasha, so therefore it's got to be muttar.
So why?
I'll tell you what the Marav says. That's what they say.
Yeah.
There's like this. One Marav in Lakewood says, 3 Marav spoke with Rabbim, that it's also.
Right.
One Marav is matter, so the kasha is, I asked him, I Rabbi Asid, and he himself says that you shouldn't rely on Ramosha's Heta by Sarisha Tefach because the Rabbans are most of the Asa. He said, Einach line Rabbi Asid, but only Asid it for Yechidim. That's what he told me.
Okay, so let me tell you what Rabbi Yeshivos said, okay? And I heard this from Rabbi Yudi Shvei said this from his father. He said, Rabbaran, I don't know what the exact nusach was. He didn't want the beards in the yeshiva. He knew the boys would want beards. So he said, "Sekidai Reb Moshe Saimach Zainafem." Those were his exact words. Sekidai Echal Tasa Asa up and Sekidai Reb Moshe Saimach Zainafem. That's what Rabbaran said.
Right. So now Menachem Per, this is what he's saying. Rabbi Yeshivos said. Menachem Per told me that he used to go to Bali Tshuva to save them from Tad, using razors with electric shaver. So Rabbi told him, you're not gaining anything. So yes, the Rosh Yeshiva, why isn't the Rosh Yeshiva Meicha? His answer was, Kaven the Dosh. That's all.
What does that mean?
So Menachem Per, the Hillel Per's father, as I said, he couldn't, since he's a guy, and he couldn't ask him, what does he mean? Hillel Per heard me, he held that today, on today's machines, he will call up Yeshivos held. He heard from Rabbi that Miss Brian came time means it's got to leave over. Moshe Heinemann said that. And you look at the Russian Makis.
Hello.
Russian,
so what does it mean, Kivin the Dosh? Let's not go to the Rosh. What does it mean, Kivin the Dosh? That since it's an Issa Daraisa 5 times, and the Dosh... Well, he didn't say to them, they're not Shaygim. He announced it. Everybody knew Rabban's Psak.
So, you know what? Someone he told that it's also can't continue using it because he didn't go to the Bima and say that it's also. But no one understands it. You know, we're relying on something we don't understand. The time of your Navi, we don't understand why the Gdalim weren't Mecher.
Rebellion said that Rabbaran said it's Kedai Reb Moshe to be Saimachan, and those were the exact words
Rebellion told me there was same Rabbi Yeshivos told me that it's mutter, and they want to write an article in Jewish Observer about all the Gdalim that answer it. So Rabbi Yeshivos stopped. So I called. Pam wanted to go in.
Rabbi Yeshivos stopped them from writing a letter answering it.
No, they're writing not a letter. They wanted to write the whole story in the Jewish Observer.
Right.
And Pam wanted it to go in. And Rabbi Yeshivos stopped it. So Pam told me, call him up, find out why. He said very stark that he takes the achrayus that it's mutter, etc., etc. I don't want to say everything he said, but I asked him a kasha before Rosh Hashanah. How could B'nai Torah go against Chavos Chaim, Chazonish? I probably mentioned Chaim also, because according to that Ezras, but I said Chavos Chaim Chazonish is Yevid 5 Am, Chavos Chaim is a Pesach Achron. You know, he said to me, good Shabbos, good Yontif. It was right before Shana. He had no answer. Let the Yeshivas answer this question. You're asking me, but no one goes. You know what the Yeshivas should go?
I'll tell you what he was answering you, Rabbi Litwack. I'll tell you what he was answering you.
Yeah.
He was answering you. When I listed before 20 Gedolim.
The 20 Gedolim that are matter, a lot of Gedolim are matter because Ramesh was matter.
No. Way before Rabbi. Again, I told you, Reb Chaim.
I don't know about these Gedolim, but why isn't it a suffix deraisa? Why isn't it a suffix deraisa?
So it's interesting. Somebody came to Reb Moshe. I heard this from Reb Shlomo Zev Kalbach. He's an Eidim by the Yeshiva of Reb Moshe Soloveitchik. He said, and he sent somebody to ask Reb Moshe. He said it was a younger man, Pesel Diskin. He said, should he be machmir? And Reb Moshe got all upset. He said, be machmir? Are you going to be machmir not to cut your chalas on Shabbos because it's a shaila of koitzer? He said,
why is that called be? Anyone says, it's Muvazir Chavetz Chaim.
So I'll tell you what Reb Moshe said. And this is what Rav Shurkin, is one of his closest Talmidim, writes in the site.
Yeah, good.
Rav Moshe held that if you take out the blade of a sheva today, and I did it this morning to check, even though I have I'd use a trimmer, but I checked it. You can't cut your finger on it. So how does it work? It works that because of the rotations and the high speed, it smashes the hair against the screen, and it destroys the hair. So Rav Moshe said to him, he said, if you would take 2 stones and rub them against the hair.
Right, but that's his opinion. I'm not saying he has the right to his opinion. No one's stepping on the cover of Rav Moshe.
So let me just finish. He said that wouldn't have a din of tar to destroy it. So he said, Moshe says, any hair, we would take a hair out. If you take the hair and press it against the blade and it doesn't split, that means it's not being done by Luach, it's done by destruction, and that's b'chlal not what the Torah said. And wait, let me finish. And in the Chafetz Chaim, you see a stira. His son-in-law writes that he was matir. In other places, in Makkos, he seems to aser. So I saw one of the Chafetz Chaim. And you see, and he was one of the.
Where was he? I'm telling you, Gershon Zaks told me. How do you know whether you're saying Michel Shurkin says over?
No. I'm talking about the Chafetz Chaim. I quoted from his son-in-law the exact language.
I saw that, but that was a missparian that leaves over something.
So let me just finish. And so I saw Sefer writes. We don't know what machine he was looking at. He was looking at a machine called a Schick safety razor, which has a real razor embedded in it, and on that the Chafetz Chaim said it's aser. So today's shavers.
What a Gillette razor? You mean?
No, it was very popular at the time. It was in the 1920s. It was called the Schick safety razor, and it had a very sharp.
Wait. Why did the Chafetz Chaim say?
Let me just finish.
Good.
So he writes that he was aser is when it was a razor. And when he was matir, it was when it wasn't a razor. So Reb Moshe, who says that it's muttar because there's no blade inside.
Look, I want to tell you something. I hear what you're saying. But you believe whatever they say over Shem Reb Moshe. Rav Gershon Zaks told me what Reb Mendel Zaks heard me Pidl Chavetz Chaim, that a machine that takes off everything is tar. He told me the Zaydat Ga'asit, and what the Chiddush of Chavetz Chaim was because they had left over something. Why is it when you say over from the family, the children of Chavetz Chaim, what the Chavetz Chaim held, people are mafakbik on it? It's got to be wrong.
No, his son.
Why is it that they're mafakbik on it, but when someone says, Shem Reb Moshe, it's mutter? The answer is, I'll tell you the real answer is, they got used to this convenience. This is our style of life, that we have to have this. They have children that are very modern, and they can't stop them from using it.
So why was Reb Moshe was matir for that reason? Reb Moshe was matir for political reasons?
No, chas v'shalom. You have to be nizah. We have to be nizah in the covet of Reb Moshe. Moshe has a right to hell he has. But let's talk on Moshe.
Was Rav Henkin matir for political reasons?
No, Rav Henkin was only.
And what about Rav Chatzkel Abramsky? Was he matir for political reasons? I don't yet
know which machine he's talking about. There were machines then. They tested machines.
Says, so when the Chuvas Van Hugis writes,
why is it Rav Moshe? I'll tell you over from David Feinstein. Shows the sheker here. Rav David Feinstein told me Nerelka wrote a track is also because it's sharp.
Yeah, that could be.
So I asked him, why aren't you mefarsim it? I asked him. So he said, I can't be mefarsim it because there's someone in his family is matir. So I asked someone, so I told someone, Rav David Feinstein asked, why are you using it? He says, I got a heter from a road. You notice that no one knows exactly. There's no tshuva from Rav Moshe. How could you rely Everyone says Baal Peh. There's no tshuva from him.
But everybody says the same thing. The Ramesh would say, take it here and press it against it. If the hair
but why is it there machlekes in the mishpat? When someone goes over to Rav and wants to find out if Ramesh is matis machine, this Rav had never spoke to Ramesh. He doesn't have a Kabbalah to know from Ramesh what you need to be matter. You see it yourself. Rav David Feinstein asked the machine, and in his family, there's a machlekes now in the Talmidim, which machines today is matter. So how is it a Kabbalah from Ramesh? How could anyone?
Rabbi Litwack.
You ask someone to call yourself, I'm relying on Ramesh. So you could ask, how do you know this machine's matter?
I'm telling you,
does he go to ask Rav David?
You take the blade out and you put your finger against it and you see. If you're afraid you're going to cut yourself, it's a problem. And if you're not, you don't have a problem.
Does anyone do that? I'm 100% sure no one does that. I'm telling you, no one does it. You do it because you know the Indians. But people in Australia know it. People in Australia know it.
Rabbi Litwack, to my knowledge, I can't think of a machine today that I've seen that if you put your finger against it, you would cut your finger.
So why did Reb Dover Feinstein ask a certain machine?
Because there was one machine, I guess, that had a very
but the ones that he asked that Klai Yisrael was using. And they said, I don't care what Reb Dover Feinstein says.
Rabbi Litwack, let's sum up.
I want to tell you something else. I want to tell you, the head of Ramosha is not Big Sab. You have to have a clear cut what Ramosha used to tell everyone, I'm only matter what I see. He had a way of testing it. How he tested it, no one knows clear.
Everybody knows clear. They say they took a hair out and
I want to ask you, some people in Australia, England, this and that, do they really know? Do they really know what Ramesh is? They don't open it up. They just go to the store and they buy it.
So Rabbi
I spoke to someone from the union and said, listen, they give a share of everything.
Rabbi
anyone say...
So would you agree then that if somebody does what Ramesh says, and takes the hair out and sees is the blade sharp or not, that he could use it? Would you agree with that?
No, I don't agree, because the 10 Rosh Bahag all it's also. You're not allowed to be noyeg keneged Chavetz Chaim. You're not allowed to be noyeg keneged. Look in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, the top ma'iroi is Rabbi Yashiv, Shem Zalman Erbach. And in Eretz Yisrael, they also use it a lot.
Rabbi
so why don't they use it in Eretz Yisrael? What's the Teretz of Moshe Mat of Eretz Yisrael?
I don't know. Rabbi Litwack, would you agree in America?
No, I don't agree, because it's only Reisel Chumrah. Let me ask you, would anyone buy tefillin without a Kutzi Shal Yud? Ramosha said, Klor, you don't need a Kutzi Shal Yud. There was an advertisement in the Jewish Observer about Kutzi Shal Yud. There was a whole asifa, and Ramosha holds you don't need a Kutzi Shal Yud. There isn't one Yid that will buy tefillin without a Kutzi Shal Yud. Why? Because the Chavetz Chaim Lezenish holds it's not kosher tefillin. So here you have a Chavetz Chaim and he's saying you have a 511. Don't bother me. How do we know that the Luach is like Ramesh? Why isn't it a subject to Raisa? You're talking about B'nai Torah Tzadikim. So why do you buy tefillin for $2,000? Buy tefillin for a couple $100 and say get a heta from a Rav. Why do you buy an esrig without fleck? What?
Rabbi Litwack, do you agree that Ramesh is the biggest Paisik who ever lived in the Western Hemisphere?
I don't know. I didn't give bechinis. I missed you. What? I didn't give. Who am I to say how big he is?
Is there another?
But not connected to the Zainish and Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim is the Paisik Achron. Sofik the Reisel Chumrah.
Hello.
Now let us say it.
We don't know what machine the Chavetz Chaim was looking at, right?
I'm telling you,
his son-in-law writes on certain machines he was.
I don't know, son-in-law. Look, everyone's running to the son-in-law. I'm telling you, Mendel Zak said over to his children that you're not allowed to use electric shavers because of Chavetz Chaim. First of all, what's the shot? Anyone who says that the Chavetz Chaim was master is telling you.
So basically,
Chavetz Chaim would have said it. Let me ask you, why didn't the Chavetz Chaim not listening to me?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
The Chavetz Chaim Lekut Elochus Makis says Mispraim doesn't say anything that it's sharp. He would have said the reason why he's asking because it's sharp. There was a clipper called Null, and he held that doesn't cleave over enough, and that's what he says over there. And in Machmi he says Mefurish Mispraim Kintar is an unclean shave. So if Mispraim Kintar means unclean shave, all these shaves are also like the Chavetz Chaim. Now let it go against the Chavetz Chaim.
So Rabbi Litwack,
I'm telling you, even Moshe was afraid of the Chavetz Chaim. That Rav told him it's only a Chumrah.
Rabbi Litwack, a few things, okay? Number one, would you agree then that a shaver that leaves a drop of hair is fine?
That you have someone like Rabbi Yashiv will be matter, because the Yasha told me if it's mashchus, it's also, and he was Mechabed Ramosha more than the ones that use electric shave.
I'm asking you, if you leave over a drop of hair, if it's not set on the lowest...
That's something else. It's not a mashchus. It's not a mashchus. That I can't say it's
so
also.
Now you agree. So what you're saying is that if it's a shave that leaves absolutely nothing, it's a problem. That's your point.
Not a question of problem. You have, let's go to say the today's poskim, not the Friedrich, Rabbi Yashiv, Frank, and let's say someone's living in Bnei Brak. I asked someone living in Bnei Brak, why do you use it?
Frank said it's because you could push against the skin, the Yeshivos yanking.
All right, you can say don't press. They press. They don't worry, they press. For some mysterious reason, the Elam got so used to it, we're not listening to G'day Yisrael. We're not listening to our G'dayim. Rabbi Yashiv Zichel is also. Chaim Knesset Gibgeri is also.
Okay,
so Rabbi Yashiv...
All the Chazon Ish and all the Talmidim held it also, period.
Yeah, so why is it a subject deraisa? You can't, if someone says, let someone say it's a subject deraisa. So you're not stepping on the cover of Moshe.
So somebody asked Ramosha this very question, and Ramosha.
So that's Ramosha old, because he's the matter. But again,
is Ramosha the Mara the Astra of America, Rabbi Litwack?
Not a Blakewood.
Okay.
So why do you make an Erev in Borough Park vis the Mara Astra? So anyone who uses the Erev in flats in Borough Park can't use the electric shavers, because he's saying he's not the Mara Astra.
So, Miss, you don't hold Ramosha as the Mara Astra of America?
I'm not going into that. You say we're going into. First of all, he's not living now. So after the Vilna guy in the Mara Astra Vilna, he's not living. He was nifted 30 years ago. How could he be the Mara Astra?
So would you in Vilna do something that was against
Keneged
the Gra?
So why do they make an Erev in Borough Park and Flatbush? Keneged Ramosha. Someone who uses the Erev can't use electric shaver.
I would tell you that I wouldn't use.
Let me ask you. I'll tell you.
And I would ask Adim if they use the Borough Park if they use the Erev before.
They use the bottom. Look. Thousands of people are using the Erev. So you're going to say, according to Dale, how could you say they're using it? They're using it. So they're using that. So they hold that it's muttar. They hold it's not the.
So Rabbi Litwack, what it boils down to is,
let me tell you something else.
Let me just do it.
There's Moses Sada Ruchni that have a letter here. They used to go to Bali Tshuva to save them from a tar. They used to go with these electric shavers. But when Kiyem Shaboy Roa B'Shem Chazayni Shein Limker Shum Mechaynes Ki Luach L'Mishum Galech Tar. In other words, he held even someone using a razor he shouldn't, because this is also tar. So they stopped doing it. His name is Ramod Chai Cheshen. He came to America and he asked me an important kasha. They stopped me from saving Yidden from tar in the kibbutzim because the Zainish says tar. Here I see the Shensta B'nai Torah are using it. What's going on here? What's you can say the answer is it's a right that the Zainish made a mistake.
No, they're
stepping on the Chazon Ish Israel. We're stepping on the Zainish. If someone doesn't use it, no complaint. He wants a higgy. Go a bit. What he times. But someone uses it. He's saying, I don't care what the Zainish says. That's what he's saying. I don't care. You tell me. Someone lives in Yerushalayim. Yashiv was then the pasuk of Yerushalayim. How could you use it in Yerushalayim? He's zichet the Asra. You're going to say it's muttar because Ramesh is Asra. He's not the Asra of Eretz Yisrael. So in Eretz Yisrael, zichet can't use it. So how do you answer Eretz Yisrael? Someone is living here in America. Why is he using it? Because there's a Yesahara. Why do people speak Lashon Hara? Because
I think Rabbi Litwack to say that when you have everybody, and again I'll go through the list from Reb Chaim Oiza, Reb Chatzkel Abramsky, Rav Kook, Reb Tzvi Bichelson, the Melamed Lahayel, the Magin Shol, Rav Henkin, Rav Moshe, Reb Yonason Steif, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, Reb Avadia.
Kloisenberger Rebbe asks. I'm sorry. I'm not getting. Venkin, look at him. I'm right away. Venkin was never matter. Venkin was not matter.
Okay, I'm printing it online. I have the tshuva in front of me. I mean, so you could say you could
look
at it online and say it's a lie from Rav Henkin. The Divrei Yatziv.
I have the tshuva. Good. What did he say?
The Divrei Yatziv Yeredeya Samach Aleph. He says to use a shaver because it's Einin Egeya Babasa Klal because of the screen, right?
Yeah, but he used to test it out if it doesn't touch.
Well, if you
He used to test it out. If it doesn't touch, he opened it up. You could ask. I say the person told me.
You close it up. That's how you tell if it closed. You keep it closed. That's how you tell if it touches.
No, he used. Someone told me if Henkin opened up the sheens, it's to be 100% sure that the blade will not touch the skin.
Well,
why did he just say?
No, he probably did it because of Ramesh's reason, to see if we're sharp.
I don't know why. Why can't we do it the best way? Why do you have to say?
All will matter it.
I'm not ready to be macabre. These 20 Gdalim are matter.
And you're saying it's because of Yetzer Hara that they will matter it?
No. I'm not saying Yetzer Hara. It's to go against a Chavetz Chaim. Chazaynish is a direct attack on their covet. If someone doesn't use it, he's not attacking anybody. He's not attacking Ramosha.
Really?
Didn't say you have to use it.
Let me ask you a question. Do you use the Chazaynish's shear on Revius? I could bet you do all the anhagas of the Chazaynish?
1 second. We're talking about Yidden and Eretz Yisrael. And Yidden and Yisrael, according to Zayn, if the Zaynish would say that this is Chil Shabbos, could someone in Bnei Brak go against Rav Eisen? Rav Eisen's Asher Zamara, he holds that it's an Issa Derais to use it.
I don't know
if someone davens in the Debrezina holds, it's also. I asked someone why. I'm showing you that the sheker here. I asked the younger man why he uses it if his Ma'ir is the Debrezina Rov and Debrezina Asher. You know what he said to me? I asked the Debrezina all my shilas, but when it comes to like a shave, I run to the side to ask Reb David. That's a sheker. What do you mean? Your Rav is the Debrezina. Well, what do you go to? That's what people are doing. They convey a Rav for everything.
You're pointing out.
Like the shaver, Ramesh is my Rav.
Rabbi Litwack, you're pointing out that there are people who use cherry picking for shilas. Okay, that's true.
You're telling me you asked the kasha why there's Yeshivos in Lakewood aren't meichel. I'll tell you why. They told me because it's very spread out, and they know that the Baruch going to say, "Don't bother me, Ramesh Amat," because I'm telling you what happened.
That's what
Makil Kata told me I could say in the name of his grandfather in Lakewood dining room that his grandfather, you shouldn't use it because his grandfather asked it. While I was speaking, a whole group of Bukrim were outside dancing, laughing at me. A week later, one of the Bukrim came over to me and looked like he was going to choke me. You can't rely on Ramesh. The Yeshivas are smart enough to know that they're going to say, Ramesh Amata, don't bother me. They're not going to listen to Brian. And they're going to run to the road. I can ask, how could it be?
But I just quoted,
I'm telling you, that happened.
Rabbi Yishay was an Adam Neman, right? And he said Rabbi Aaron himself said that Ramesh is Kedai to be Saimach on him. Why he allowed it?
I don't know what you're saying. Could be Kedai. I'm telling you what I know. I don't know what Rabbi Yishay is saying. I'm telling you what you're asking me. What the correct thing to do is do not use it because there's 10 Rashkabags that holds this in the rice.
Okay, so basically,
I can show you. A lot of these are born in the mat that probably didn't even see their kvega. I'm telling you, that's why they're mat. The Masham Chelik Beis Simration Gimel says Mefurish that a Misprime that doesn't take off everything, that takes off everything is tar. Mefurish. Look at Truist Masham Chelik Beis Simration Gimel, and Shem Zalman Erbach. Chaim Chazaynish. You have so many Gdolim Masham. The way it says here, some Sefer said a tar, Mitzrayim takes off everything is tar. Look up the Kvega. The Gdolim would see, the Gdolim that were Mata would see this Kvega, they would say, we can't go against a Kvega. Kvega's, you know what Kvega was?
Rabbi Kiva Ega is going on Peyas Haraish.
I'm telling you, but you keep on repeating. Take out the Tshuva Shevet Tzedakah. And he says, Mefurish there, that Peyas Zokin, it's a Misprime that takes off Peyas Zokin completely is tar. That's what the Tshuva said. And he says, look over there. If he says, look over there, if he argued on that, Baruch, look at this Tshuva Shevet Tzedakah Baruch.
Okay.
And it says, so I'm telling all the Gdalim that were Mata, that they would see Kveg, and that one God would have a horse. They couldn't have seen it because the Shemesh Tzedakah was reprinted 10, 15 years ago. You look at now the bringing and the size of Kvega, aside of Shulchan Aruch to bring the Lashon of the Shemesh Tzedakah, which is talking about Pei Zokim. Kvega, Gain is bigger than any Godel today, brings a Tshuva Shem Stocker that says by Pei Zokin. I saw it. Miss Brian that takes off everything is tar because it's mashkes.
We'll look at the
someone says the Kveg is a toys, is an apocaris.
Wait.
What are you saying? Someone said I can't be noig. Someone noig, but to say that the Kveg was a toy, he says I am b'tshuva Shem Stocker, and he brings. I showed one of the Rabbanon Omata this tshuva Shem Stocker, and he brings from the Beis Hillel. The Hill was there Paiskim, so he looked at it and he got to shrucken, and I asked someone to call him up. He said, I don't want to have anything to do with it. As soon as he saw Kvega says, I am b'tshuva Shem Stocker, and you know what the Beis Hillel is? Beis Hillel is one of the Gedolei HaPoskim. Says Mefurish, and Misprime that takes off Pei Zokin completely is tar. All these Rabbanon that you mentioned see this Kvega b'Shem Shuzeka. They would see it, they would change their mind, 100%. Maybe Moshe would back up. How can you say it's muttar if Kvega says brings this? You can't argue. You could say if Shasat Chak, modern people, you're afraid they might use this. But if they tire it, we know connect Kvega. Never was such a thing. This you clear so. So I wrote a letter to Chaim Kanevsky on Tisha B'Av. I wrote it to him. There's a whole problem with the drafting army. Truva Tvilat Sokim Avins Regazera. How could the truva be niskabel if they're using tar? So you know he wrote to me. You know, his daughter showed him. That's how he was noig, and his answer was what you're saying is right. Dvor Tzotkim. It's a letter from Chaim Kanevsky. I have it over here. I wrote him like this. The matzav shel bnei Torah shereitzim dina shom l'shliach bnei Torah l'tzoh gzeir and roya kemuven utruva tvil tzok mavinus ren gzeir. The calls matzav bnei Torah mishtam shem mechoins geluach hey shach truva. The kosev ani michte b'tshuva b'tisha b'deshach. The zeh echad mi'akve agula. Prat shebnei Torah shom b'sakona tzrichim l'hafse mishtam shem mechoins geluach Rosh Yeshiva tzrichim l'hachris v'chol tekev. Shlo yishtam shem b'dova shoyvim be'elav prat the zu shel sakona. Chashavti kam upon lichtei michte zu aval yom Tisha B'Av gemarti b'dait lichtei l'bakish asim zeh the kovid Rav. The daughter said Harav Kanevsky shlita oma yitochen miyod hu tzedek. Leah Kodeski Abasharav, because she used to sew. He couldn't write. He doesn't write because he got a lot of letters. He agreed that this might be a Makve Agula. Mashiach Kaz, Mashiach Hutaina to the Rosh Yeshivos. How do you know? Maybe the Rosh Yeshivos should get together, even if they can't do anything, at least let them krech. The Chavetz Chaim asked the Rav of his city, why, there's a lot of Chilul Shabbos in your city. Why don't you do anything? He said, listen, I'm an alter yid, I can't change. He said, yeah, but at least you could krech. Let the Rosh Yeshivos get together and say, let's krech. Taisent b'nei Torah are being over 5'11" according to these Rashke Bahags, and we're sitting aside and saying we can't do anything about it. But at least if they can't do anything about it, at least let them kracht, let them sit shiva, let them do something that Yidden are over 5'11". So you can tell me from the relying those. I bet you.
Rabbi Litwack, two things. Okay, the Tshuvas Rabbi Kivega, which he brings by Giluach Peyas Harash. It's not some favorfen or Rabbi Kiva Ega in the hashmatis to uktzin, right? It's in Kuf Pei Aleph in Giluach, right? So
but they didn't have
wait 1 second. All the Rabban, if Rabbi Kiva Ega had it, we could assume all of them had it. So you're not bavising some new marumakim. So you're basically saying that the 20 Gedolim who I mentioned, none of them knew a Rabbi Kiva Ega in Kuf Pei Aleph in Shulchan Aruch on the siman that they were writing, which to me is honestly, I don't know, it's sort of
look up the tshuva.
I will look it up. And second of all, Rabbi Kivega doesn't say he paskins like that. He just says ayin barucha.
But how can it be held differently? He would say ayin shom. How can he say ayin shom if he holds differently?
Rabbi Kivega stole.
He says he wants you to look at it.
Well, where do you live, by the way?
I live in Kensington.
Do you use the Eruv?
No, Litvish Yidden don't use an Eruv. It's not. Okay. I don't use an Eruv because I never used an Eruv.
So why don't you scream against the people who use Eruv that according to Ramosha, every Daled Amos they walk to being Mechal Shabbos?
Because Ramosha also said he's not Meicha in one of the forum. Ramosha said, first, like the base says it's muttar, because it's not Shish and Riba Yayim. I don't how you're getting on top of a subject of different anhogas, but look at the Messias Hashem for Taiches. The Beis Yosef says.
Rab Litwack, do you know that the Mesil Shisharim himself shaved?
If he didn't use electric shaver, he used powder. Look at this. The Shlomo Zalman, Talmidei Gra, he had a whole machlekes with the Zokin Echad Muflik B'Torah being Isuri Mechetz. So he said, the Zokin told Shlomo Zalman, the Talmidei Gra, he said, I'm old, I never saw anyone should be makbid in such a thing. How could it be? That there must be a het. Onat, Reb Zalman said to him like this: how much money does a person invest before he makes sure that it's a good investment? And how many arvoines, mashkenes, mevakesh, they shouldn't lose his money. So when it comes to Elam Hazeh, everyone makes sure to be 100% secure that he's not going to lose money. So even in Chash Rochuk, he's not going to make an investment to lose money. Is kama onu chayovim lases bedarke Torah mitzvah shein oimdim berumei shalayim ve'ech niach derech kvusha shedorchu bo abeisena kadmoinim v'nachnes asmeina b'mishal akromim okim tzao smach amunas het shein leisherish. The Zokum is telling me it can't be that this is also was something about Anissa and America is probably maybe taking children there, whatever it is. But the old man said, "Look, I'm an old man. So many people do it. It can't be us." So he said, so he gave a marshal. Would anyone make an investment if he's not secure, if he's any chance to lose money? We're fooling around with 5 lav there. You can't say that there's no shiloh. Why? Because this one is my dawah. How could that be? You can bring riots for other cases, this and this and that. I'm saying it's very shaykh. Take out the shemet stocker, the helik kavega, gain againim. You can't say that there's no tzad l'issa. If someone says to me, I'm trying to say I'm telling that it's a busy daily Israel to say there's no shiloh. If someone says, what could I do? My whole kila uses it. I can't change, and they're not going to listen to me. So he speaks with Edelkeit. I'll tell you, there was an Asifa Rosh Yeshivos, and one Rosh Yeshivos, I showed him the list of Gdalim. So he said to me, what is all this, Ogan? The whole Welt is noig like promotion. You can't do anything about it. So he's speaking with Edelkeit. But what some say is, no, there's no Shaila. And all the Gdalim were matter because they weren't meicha. Wait a minute, there's a ksav yad from all the Gdalim. By the time you're playing around the fire, everyone brings a raya, like this old man. He says, can't be also because so many people do it. So Shlomo Zalman said, would you make an investment? Because if you had a chash of losing all your money, would you rely on it? Same thing over here.
So let me ask you, why won't the Balabatim listen?
Ask the Rav why he doesn't answer it.
I'm asking you why, but why won't the Balabatim listen?
Because they're going to tie her a Moshe Mata.
No, because they need it for their lifestyle, right?
Well, you answered. Could any Rav or Shiva get up to the beam and say?
No, I'm asking you a question, Rabbi Litwack. If somebody came and they said, I want to get a job in a law firm, and it's very hard for me to have a beard, right? I couldn't get the job. Would you understand why he doesn't want it?
Yeah, because that's what's happening. 40, 50 years ago, people were traveling on Shabbos in the train because they couldn't get a job. So they work in Shabbos. There was a Ruach HaTorah to travel on a train Shabbos.
So you're saying just like people were Machal Shabbos because
no, it's not good to be Medayma.
I'm just saying, shave, it's like being Machal, and they're doing it. Then they're Machal Shabbos.
As in people are going to think that I'm Malshin Kleiser. We're trying to make a takana here.
So do you understand?
They should stop using it. Not to end up being...
Rabbi Litwack, do you understand that people need parnasa, and for many jobs, being clean shaven is important, and therefore. Rav says, it's responsible for you to shave. You have many merayi will matter it. You need parnasa. You don't want to live on government programs, and therefore, Yes, you have a head to the shave. Do you understand
We're
that or
talking
not?
about B'nai Torah now. I want to talk about every case is different. I don't want to answer that question.
Well, you're talking about
we're talking about
B'nai Torah.
They're going to say, Balbatan say, you cannot tell me. It's also if in Lakewood, Bochum use it.
Do you think if somebody says, I have to be clean shaven, I need it for my job, is it muttar to use a shaver?
I'm not going to answer such a question. I'm not going to. But you see, it's not like this. You see that in Eretz Yisrael, they didn't allow this year of Cheshen to take an electric shaver to save them from a razor. So I'm not going to fight with the Zainish. I would avoid it. I'm not going to answer.
So the question is, do we go with the Chazanish or the Gedolim?
At least the Suffolk, you're allowed to give a Suffolk Deraisa to someone to save from tar. So it's big shaila. If Chaim Knesset holds, you're not allowed to. Shlomo Zalman told me that it's Suffolk Deraisa, and you could give it to someone using a razor. Chaim Knesset, I told it to Chaim Knesset. Chaim Knesset said you can't, but Yasher held the Vade Deraisa.
Rabbi Litwack, do you eat turkey?
We're getting off the subject.
No, I'm asking you a question.
Of my saying this is
do you eat
that
turkey?
I'm
asking you a question. Do you eat turkey?
I eat turkey, yes.
It's a Suffolk Deraisa. There were many Gedolim who held that you're not allowed to, because there's no kabbalah on it, and therefore it's an oif tamid. So do you eat turkey? Why aren't you chayshish for those Gedolim?
I don't know each case.
I never was miming myself. You're trifing up your kitchen.
So you're going to say, let me ask you, so you're going to say by tefillin also, you have Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam.
Right.
How could you wear tefillin Rashi?
Do you wear tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam every day? It's my next question.
There's no end to it, so why do you buy an end without flecking?
That's exactly my point.
No, but we're trying to say...
You have daily raw that will matter it. So just like you eat turkey, not Gedolim Hera, the biggest Gadol Hera that ever by his Levi I was there in Bnei Brak, and they said that he would have been a Gadol in the Zman of the Cham Sofer. They don't say it about anybody else.
Yeah, but
right?
He was master today's savers. Tell him to use it. If Shach acid using electric shaver, I
said that the one who they said would have been a Gadol, a Marav, and a Gadol in the time of Cham Sofer. They didn't say that.
Look, you're saying with turkey. Right? If my Rav would say it's also, I would not use it. But I'm telling you, over here, you can tell us the Torah.
You put on Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin every day?
Right, I don't put on Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. So you say it's a raya.
So according to many, you're a kakafta d'loy manach tefillin. But you're a kakafta d'loy manach tefillin, according to many people.
No, but the other Mishnah Berurah says that the Halacha is like Rashi.
But what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose by doing that? Do you have anyone Pesach today that our Pesach is the Chavis Chaim? He's saying that it's a Nisa Deraisa. The Baal Mishra says the halacha is like Rashi. That's why you have a Mishnah Berurah.
Right.
But the Baal Mishra is Anganum of Pesach Achron says that it's a Nisa Deraisa.
Why? What do you have to lose of putting on Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin?
So everyone puts on tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam once in a lifetime.
Well, according to the Pri Megadim, you have to do it every day, right?
So was he bring a riot since people use tefillin Rashi? Because Chaim himself probably, I think there's a big difference. Here is a shaila that started 30 years ago. Rashi and Ben Tam was in the time of the Shulchan Aruch, and there was achroyas from Rishonim and this and that. But here we're talking about something that started 30, 40 years ago, and and the only one that was matter, as far as we know today's, is Ramosha. And it's connected Kol G'dayli Yisrael. Yochid B'Rabim, Lochid B'Rabim. At least the rice
I named 20, so Rabbi Litwack was
20. I want to see the 20.
I'll put all the 20
I can tell you, Avramsky is not only a machine that was 40, 50 years. It was nifted 50 years ago. Today's machines, the company, would anyone give a hashgacha to a butcher store if the butcher store brings in a Tiferes? Of course not. What are the companies, electric shaver companies, what are they up to? Up to one thing, to make money. Their competitor is the razor. Day and day, they're working day and night to make their shaver worse than a razor. So how can you bring a raya from Avramsky that was lifted 40, 50 years ago? Maybe he told him not to press. Maybe he saw a machine that left over something. You have to have something more positive. Yeah, and positive means that there's only one positive is Ramosha.
Rabbi, here is
Moshe saw today's shavers.
Rabbi Litwack, here's the three reasons that matter. One is because there's a blade in between the skin and there's a screen between the,
but it takes
the
off
blade
all the
and the
hair.
thing. Doesn't matter between, but that's the reasons why they matter. This is what they write, the Chaim. Three reasons. Because there's a blade between, so it bleibt misparayim. And misparayim kein tar, many paiskim are matter, even if there's nothing left. That's reason one. Reason of Rav Moshe is because there's no cutting going on here at all. It's just destruction of the tar, right? That is the second. Did I lose you or you're on?
Hello?
Yeah. The second
I'm telling
reason,
you,
yeah.
It's a sakana for Klai Yisrael, b'nei Torah, v'nei k'neged al Pesach Achron Chavis Chaim. And I'll tell you an emotional story. I was been biased by Rabbi Gershon Zaks, and I spoke to him more than once about this. And Shavuos was Sunday and Monday, and Friday I spoke to him about it, and he said these words: "The Zayda hot ka'asit, good Shabbos, good Yontif," and he was nifted a couple of days later. That's why I can never forget it. This was his lashon. The Zayda hot ka'asit, good Shabbos, good Yontif, and that was the last words that he said to me. I had a lot to do with him. He mentioned more than once those stories, but this was his last words. The Zayda hot ka'asit. Now, everyone's going to be, in fact, we'd be right. I'm telling you, by me it's worth it, because if I hear Gershon Zaks saying what he heard from his father, why should he make up stories? They're going to say, no, it's not true. It's not true. But when someone says over for Moshe is not there, it don't bother me. Moshe Matter. There's something here, something psychological, that you have to run to the matter. You have to run to the matter, because the Yeshivas are not being murdered. What they should do is at least speak about it, that there's a Shaila, there's a lot of them that Asay, Chaim, Midei Sekle Nafka. No one speaks about it. All these other, what you're talking about, Rashi and Ben Tam, the Shulchan Aruch speaks about it. They're not hiding it. They speak about the Machlokes and have an Arichas. The only one that's had the nerve to write was this Moshe Rina, because he lives in Crown Heights. Been in Sishon Labarish, and people are afraid to talk about it. You feel like you're in we're in a democratic country. Do you ever hear Rabban and Rosh speaking about the Shiloh? No. There's some type of a pachat to speak about it. Why is it? But Rashi by the time they speak about Rav and Borough Park, they have a Riches in the hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah.
Why doesn't speak about it? Find out, let Reb David write a tshuva, why his father's matter, and which machines he's matter. It's Torah. No chutzpah here. You have to find clear, not what this one says, that one says. And let's see which machines he holds as far as matter. He's not ready to write a tshuva. It sounds funny. Why don't you write a tshuva? Write a tshuva. My father is this, and this, and that. There's no busy Torah. You have a right to ask. Yeah. I want to know not what this one says, that one says. I want to have a tshuva. The Chaim asked it because he held Misparim Kinta mostly Vova. Showing you from the Machne Yisrael, I hear clear-cut is.
It's not.
But Moshe Mat is only about peh. And there's different. Your reasons you're giving, not everyone says over. Not everyone says over that way. This one says this reason. This one says that reason. It's not clear-cut. Let's be to bear from Dov Feinstein. Write a tshuva why your father was matter, and according to you, which machines are mut, which machines are.
Rabbi Litwack, we're out of time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, okay?
All right, dicke Sach is, medaf sein Rach Yishmayim, soll sein a Gula Shleimer, wie Ameinu, and it should be a Tzola for Kleisel.
Amen. Also, bye-bye. We have the honor of having with us on the phone from Yerushalayim, Harav Shalom Applebaum, who's the Rosh Koil and Tiferes Chaim, otherwise known as Rabbi Applebaum's Yeshiva. And it's a Yeshiva for American Bachrim, as well as a Koil. Welcome, Rabbi Applebaum.
Oh, thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
So let me ask you, Rabbi Applebaum. So we get a lot of criticism here on the program from people around the world. I just got 2 calls from England, and I believe we have to respond to anybody who's respectful. And they say, you talk about things that we're not supposed to speak about, B'tzibur. you speak about, surrogacy. Who's the mother? Is it the egg donor? He says we don't talk about those things. It's not derech eretz. It's prost. You talk about shidduchim issues and many different topics, right? Certain types of addiction. And my response was that the Chaim Sofer taught Hilchos Nida in the yeshiva, and at the end of Hilchos Nida it says Siyamti Hilchos Nida Pai by Yeshiva with the Bachrim, he writes. So we believe the Torah is muttar, and I heard that this is a topic that you've spoken about, and I'd like to hear some of your Das Torah on this.
As you know, there's a difference of opinion here. It's well known that in many of the Hasidic yeshivas, these sugyas are off limits. They're not taught. They feel that they're worried that Bachrim, actually with the having interaction with these sugyas, it could lead them chas v'shalom to Yehurim, and which would be very, very problematic. In the Litvish yeshivas, these sugyas are discussed openly. But what's interesting about it is that it's not that the Magidi Shiurim, when they give Shiurim and Pesach Pasuach, are prepared to discuss anatomy or actually discuss what a bacher who maybe for the first time is exposed and has questions. Usually that's something that a Magid Shir is not going to discuss, certainly not publicly, and that itself might be a problem. What is a bacher who starts learning through the Ksuvas Daf test for the first time now has that, he's about what's going on, what does this mean? And you start to learn, you're learning about female anatomy and who's there to discuss it and guide you, take you by the hand and explain it to you. So that is a major issue. The fact that they learned it in Pressburg and other yeshivas in Eastern Europe at that time, we could understand that it's true, everything is Torah, and there was an understanding that a person in Mitzvah Hashem with true Yerushalayim will come to an understanding, and there's no reason it should affect him. But today, especially, first of all, Bachrim who are not really exposed to the outside world. The question is, who's there if they do have a problem, an issue, a dilemma? Who's there to help them and guide them?
So Rabbi Applebaum, are you suggesting that Bachrim today are less exposed than they were in Pressburg?
No, they're not less exposed.
1835?
Yeah, and it's a great question, but there's certainly, Bachrim today are more exposed, even Hasidic yeshivas, and because I think it's an issue of the pashut of the chinuch, and the Messiah as being diluted, and it could be, I'm not aware. See, the problem is we don't have any data. It's no way we can plug in exactly the effect and influence, exactly these Bachrim, when they learned these sugyas, and they learned in Pressburg, exactly how the Chaim Sofer did deal with it. The Chaim Sofer write anywhere how you can deal with such a problem.
Well, additionally, they say the Chaim Sofer Tziyadua had a doll, a male and a female doll, and when he learned Hilchos Nida, he would show them the anatomy on the doll. So it seems
I'm not aware of that. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, and so let me ask you a question before we go through, the different svarim. What do you believe? I mean, do we teach the story of Lot and his daughters? Do we take the story of Yehud and Tamar? Do we teach that? Do we take that out of the Chumash? I mean,
there's a tshuva, I think, in Rav Sternbach has in Tshuvas Van Hugis. He talks about Tanakh as today. Tanakh is Chof Dalet Svarim. A person, that was something to be muchtar, to be a baki in Chof Dalet Svarim. It was part of a person's shleimus in Talmud Torah and Avodas Hashem. Today, we don't learn, many places, they don't learn Nach for fear that the stories are too difficult to comprehend and too many issues and questions. David and Bathsheba, Shaul and David, especially issues concerning when it comes to Arayas and things like that, issues of the relationships in Tanakh, and for that reason, it's not learned. Certainly not in a sheer form. Maybe Yechidim learn it, but it's not taught as part of the curriculum.
So do you say we don't teach we don't learn the story of Yehuda and Tamar? We just take it out? Is that what you do in Eretz Yisrael?
I'm not aware of any yeshiva. I'm not aware of any yeshiva, and I'm pretty. It makes sense to me. I have a question: if the people who teach in the yeshiva would be equipped to actually explain it, except maybe on a higher level to Avreichim. We have a question from a Kabbalistic. The Medrash says that Yehuda really was the Malach of Taiva, pushed him to do it. But Lamaisa, for Bachrim, for sure, these things are just overlooked. And we just hope for the best is probably the attitude that they take in these yeshivas.
So in Eretz Yisrael, they skip literally parshas in the Chumash.
No, again, you have to know the difference is you have in the Cheder. Here's the difference: the boys learn Chumash from age 5 to about 10. After 10, except for Parshas Hashavua, they don't learn the Parsha inside pasuk by pasuk. They just give a general overview and they discuss they give Vartlach on the Parsha. The girls, so when the boys learn Parshas Vayeshev, so Yehuda Tamar, it's pretty much 6 and 7-year-olds just translated. The Rebbe just translated it in usually a poor translation, but tries to translate just to give a basic understanding. So Yehuda and Tamar, he'll explain that they got married. That's how he'll explain that parsha. That's how they would teach such a parsha in Cheder. There you're dealing with usually that parsha is Breishis. So the boys, the Yengulach learn parshas Breishis, and when they're 6 or 7, they don't repeat it. The girls actually parshas Breishis learn in the Beis Yaakov system here in Eretz Yisrael. They learn Breishis, I think, in Kita Ches, which is the girls are 12 years old. And
do they or don't they learn these? Do they take these parts out of the Chumash? That's my question.
They don't take it out, but they go through it very quickly, and they do not elaborate at all on the significance, the understanding of these verses. That's right.
So it's you're saying that today they do practice a type of I guess the type of censor, but instead of the censor being Russian, you're saying it's today we censor and we don't discuss these parshas. I was not aware of that. I went to regular yeshivas. Yeah. I went to regular yeshivas and they did. I find it astonishing, quite honestly.
What the Marshal writes, I think this is already a starting point. People have to know. We're having a discussion about these topics about censorship. The Marshal is a famous Marshal in the Chuvas. I think it's in the Yam Shel Shloim in Barbakam. I think it's Perek Dal in the Sukkah, I think Lamed Ches. The Marshal says to distort Torah in any way, to give a false understanding.
The Torah is Yarek Val Yavari, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's a very big problem. And the issue over here is, again, I mentioned about being equipped to deal with it. Rabbi here, Baruch Hashem, Eretz Yisrael, there's a tremendous transformation in the pedagogy now, in teaching skills and how to give over Torah, Gemara, but the best of my knowledge, these things are actually not dealt with.
So let me give you some Makaimis. This is from Shulchan Aruch Even Ezra, the Ezer Mikodesh in the Shulchan Aruch. He says, Einli mana mishum shash gram hir milalamed milulmoid bachrim hilchas shebesei nashim. He says we learn all Seder Nashim with Bachrim. The Maram Shik writes a tshuva arucha in Dini Hargasha by Nida, Lahuvi Talmidi Habacher Zalman Spitzer. I don't know who Zalman Spitzer was, but he was a Bacher, and he wrote. And the tshuvas I mentioned the tshuvas Sam Seifa says to this same Shail in Hilchas Nida LeBachrim Gedolim, and in the end of his Hilchas Nida he says he learned it in the yeshiva. From Chaim Velazhin, and this is brought in Oymani Chaima, he says, Ein limud sheyachel lahazik beruchnius. And I think that's what the Litvish world is. He says, limud Torah is muttar, and it can't be mazik beruchnius. Right? And he brings the Gemara. It says, Rav Acha used to dance with a kal on his...
The Gemara in Ksuvas. Yeah?
Yes, he says that even though he wasn't, he was a tzaddik, but he says, what about other people? They'll see a man dancing with a woman on his shoulders, the kala. So they say, so he brings, the Oymani Chaima says that Reb Chaim based on Reb Chaim Velazhin's thing, that limud, not only limud of Torah can be mazik beruchnius, but anhagas Talmud Chacham can be mazik beruchnius. Yeah. And listen to this, Reb Chaim Kanievsky asked him if he should learn Masechtas Nida. He says, I waited till I was a little bit of an older bacher after my bar mitzvah to learn Hilchos Nida.
Right.
He says, why? Because he says, because the Chazon Ish said, Torah shatnisht.
Yeah, and makes a lot of sense. I think when a bacher learns Yerushalayim, there's a certain intuitive connection where you can, on your own, without having any classes on biology or understanding exactly what the male-female relationships are, you're able to Mitzvah Shem, get a Torah perspective on these issues, the Torah itself, and the question is, and this is a very, very difficult question. You're Rav Chaim Kanievsky. The question is, especially we have known about the Dor of Haskalah, but were there many people who were affected and looked at the Torah and were because people didn't talk about it? I'm to the best of my knowledge, you talk about the Chasam Sofer, but I can't imagine that it was actually there were shiurim given and explaining exactly what is the significance and going on in the Gemara. I think it was just left to the individual, and the question is, were there people who actually were influenced l'ra from these things? And so, again, there's no data. I'm not aware of it. I just know that today we have a problem. It's not being taught, and I agree with you. There needs to be, whether at a chinuch conference, maybe someone can get that out. It's something maybe it was discussed at the good conferences or something. But this is something which is very, very important. It needs to. We need a mahalach. Exactly how do we give it over to the students in a way that a person can get the proper Torah perspective.
So, by the way, the Maramakam of Weird Chasam Sofer had two dolls. It's the Chutam Mishulish brings it. And he said he had Kalim Meyuchadim L'chol Shiurei Torah, Shtei Tzureis Tavne Zachar V'Nekeva Maisei Umin Prakim.
Chutam Mishulish is Rav Chaim Volozhiner.
I'm bringing you Daf Chav Tes it's a different Chutam Mishulish.
It says it makes sense. It doesn't work out historically, right?
He says V'chol HaChalakim HaPnimiyim, the internal organs, Lomoi D'Lamed Chachmas HaNituach. He says he showed it to Talmidim Muvhakim.
That's the difference. The Talmidim Muvhakim, and these are people who already probably were Baki in the Maseches Nida 10, 20, 30 times over.
But he said they were Bachrim. I mean, he says they were
Bachrim.
Well,
we know the difference in the Hungarian yeshivas. Halacha was already, they mastered the Talmud Shulchan Aruch already in their teenage years, so they learned Maseches Nida and Hilchos Nida even before the Chasana,
So, I mean, I'm curious. So, given that we have so much halacha background to do it, why do they not teach it then? Why today?
I really think first and foremost, I don't know if they're really equipped to deal with it. I believe that especially in each dar v'darshav, and there's an importance to be able to relate it today in the modern age. It might be a different approach. People are afraid that they won't be able to give it over in a way that'll be acceptable. So there's definitely an apprehension of fear, and therefore they think it's best to be left over maybe to parents, and that brings a whole different issue. How the relationship of the parents to the kids? When should the parents teach certain things to their children? Mother and daughter issues concerning, whether it's, when the girl gets her period, and be able to explain exactly what's going on. And it's a big problem because, again, that is something, because they don't get the chinuch in the schools and it's not explained to them from teachers. So the question is, where do the parents get it from, and how are the parents able to give it over?
But Rabbi Applebaum, do you feel that this generation is exposed less? I mean, if anything, this generation is the most exposed generation in history. I mean, kids today learn at 10 or 11 or 12 what our great-grandparents never saw in their lives. And isn't throwing a blanket on this, like the worst possible thing, so that it's the only way kids are finding about these things are from areas that are not from Torah? I mean,
not from Torah, and there's distortions, and you're right. And
so, I mean, isn't this, you would think it would be the exact opposite. I mean, if you don't teach children today about, Derech Eretz, Minig, right? They're going to hear about it on the streets. They're going to hear about it from iPhones. They're going to see it in magazines, in newspapers, on billboards in Yerushalayim, on the bus stops. I mean, today, so my point is, it's. I think isn't the worst possible solution to say this overexposed generation, let's not talk about it. I mean, let them learn about it from the bus stops. What?
Mind-boggling, and it's funny.
It's incredibly ignorant.
Bali Tshuva, I've had, Baruch Hashem, a lot of interaction, and I've been involved in working with Bali Tshuva also over the last 20, 25 years. It's Baruch Hashem, usually we're dealing with very mature, especially post-high school, Bali Tshuva or Sameach, Torah, and they're given the Torah understanding. The educators in these institutions are well-equipped to deal with this. They're prepared, and they actually get a very, very good understanding, and there's a certain shleimus, and it actually it's beautiful to see how these people who were so influenced by the tumah of the outside world when they come to Torah, and they are able to connect and have a Baruch Hashem, a very good understanding of these topics from a Torah perspective, and it makes a big difference. The problem is how we're going to give it over in the religious world, in the frum world.
Wouldn't you agree, Rabbi Applebaum, that even if it's given over and not the most successful teacher, etc., but if it's given over by anybody who is a Yirei Shamayim, which I assume that Rabbeim are and teachers are, however clumsily it's given over, it's still better than finding out about it from the street?
No, I don't think so. I'll be honest with you. My own daughter, when my daughter was learning Malachim, the teacher went pretty quickly through the beginning of the parasha, David, Avishag, those type, and she didn't explain. And one of the students raised their hand and said, what exactly is going on here? And the teacher was not able to explain it. And the girl, my daughter told me, was very upset and went after the class to the teacher, and the teacher didn't want to talk about it. And my daughter said it had a very bad effect on the student.
In what respect? A bad effect in what way?
No, the fact is the teacher doesn't understand, so there are no answers. That she doesn't understand it. It's a very difficult parsha, and you see, here's a mechaneches, someone who went through the Beis Yaakov system and trained and went to a teacher's training and went to study to be a teacher, and she's not equipped, she's not able to answer what this parsha is talking about. What's going on here?
So you're saying hashkafically, this wasn't an anatomical issue. This was how could David do something like that.
That's correct. There's a question, yeah.
I'm discussing more about those who are prudes and those who are saying, and I agree with you, hashkafa, there are certain issues that maybe shouldn't be touched.
Yeah, that's what Sternberg was, when he mentioned that, he was talking about hashkafa. I don't know if that needs to be actually part of the curriculum, exactly the teacher in front of the classroom. That's debatable. It could be that I'm not aware of the system, the educational system in the United States. Beis Yaakov is there. But here in Eretz Yisrael, I guess, assuming that with Haskamas HaGedolei Torah, that they've come to that it's better not to do it. It's hard to understand because, as you mentioned, Chaim can imagine, right? Everything is Torah, and you teach Torah straight, pure, and the way, and you won't, as you mentioned, that you're not going to be hurt from it.
Rabbi Applebaum, I understand that you for many years taught topics in yeshivas and seminaries in Eretz Yisrael that some people would consider controversial. Could you give us a few of those topics?
Well, David, they're very similar to the topics that you yourself discuss on the show. Questions of yeshiva boys in the army, women in the army, and sometimes in the more modern seminaries, it was very important for them to give the Torah viewpoint on issues like abortion and homosexuality. And some of the more, we'll call it frummer Beis Yaakovs, they were very reticent, they were very fearful in bringing these topics, exposing the girls to these issues.
Give us an example of an issue that some people wanted you to discuss and others were worried about.
No, as I mentioned, something like abortion and homosexuality. Now, homosexuality seems to be the most people an open and shut case, but there's so many other aspects. For example, in a community, you have, how if someone is to be known to be involved in homosexuality. So what's the shayla? Could you have him over for Shabbos? Issues of kiruv. Can you give him an aliyah? So, there's things to discuss, right? To discriminate specifically against the homosexual as opposed to the Mechal Shabbos. The Mechal Shabbos, the shul does give aliyah. And people who are, involved or in that type of activity, for some reason are not giving this. Is that correct or not? So there are other aspects, but it's very, very important sometimes to be able to, open the eyes and be able to expand the horizons of people to see that the Torah, the main point of it is, and I think that's what you're doing, Baruch Hashem, wonderfully, very, very, very well on your show, is to show that the Torah doesn't hold back and the Torah is able to relate and give timely answers to the most difficult ethical questions.
So let me share with you, we're going a little off topic, but I'll share with you. I get a lot of emails and a lot of calls, and I try to respond to those that I feel are interested in a response. Many of them are just giving speeches.
Right.
So a guy emails me. He very much would like to meet about a private matter. He emailed me 3 or 4 times, and he called. So I said, okay. So this boy comes. He's his first man back in Lakewood from a big yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, and he tells me that he's reached Einas HaShidduchim, and he has absolutely no attraction to the opposite gender.
Right.
And his first question is, he says, I could fake it, I could make believe, and I could go out. And the question is, should I do that?
Right.
So I said, what do you mean you have no? He said, I have absolutely. Since I'm a child, he says, if I were to view pornography, it's like reading a stock table. It means nothing to me. And I said, in the same gender? He said, the same gender. It's not. I have an issue.
Right.
So he said, am I allowed to date? And I said, how could you date? It's v'hafta l'reacha kamocha, the Gemara says. So he says, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Well.
And it's very easy to, I get all the Michigayim callers, Gate Salmaves, the crazy.
Right, unbelievable. Yeah.
And it's very easy to do that until it's somebody who you know's child.
In the community, a child, right?
And people say, well, how could that be? Well, I don't understand how could that be? The Rabbi Shalom creates, there are people who are born with 6 fingers and 8 fingers, and there are people who are born with 1 leg and no legs. In Teva, like the Rambam writes in the Moira, it's funny things happen. So how could it happen?
Yeah, listen, I was a mashgiach in a yeshiva. Listen, there's no question. Anyone who's honest and is willing to really, willing to truly, meet the challenges. We know that this exists in the best places, the best yeshivas, and to cover our eyes, to make ourselves just cover it up and not relate to it is pashut causing. It's not only a disservice; it's pashut a churban. These are people who are yidden, who are challenged,
who are in
terrible pain, terrible suffering. And if you're not equipped to deal with it, Baruch Hashem, we have many, many professionals today, from the psychologists and therapists who, Baruch Hashem, are doing great work in this field. But to criticize, to look down, and usually the first response to such a thing is to throw such a person out of the yeshiva when you reveal. And there are stories like that. In Pashut, this is a ritzicha. You can, and there are many, there are many great gedolim who dealt with this issue. The response is to find the people who are able to help these people. And this is well known already. Rabbi Feldman, the Yeshiva of Merav Yisrael, Rabbi Aaron Feldman, he wrote extensively, and he is a person who's well equipped in dealing with this shiloh.
So did you go to Gedolim and ask them, am I supposed to be teaching? And I don't like to use the word controversial, because controversial implies is that it's being spoken about because it's controversial.
Right.
But I like
it also gives a bad connotation. It seems like the things that are usher, and you're exposing them to things that they shouldn't.
And what I like to talk about is things that are really practical, but that everybody else just puts their head down because they don't have a clue or they're not equipped. I mean,
I think you mentioned it last week. You mentioned the big problem. There controversial, especially when we talk about parshas of Tanakh. So that is a very, very big problem. And
so did you ask any gedolim? Did you go to any rabbanim gedolim and say, am I allowed to teach, certain parts of Tanakh? Am I allowed to discuss with girls, promiscuity, or with younger people, the dangers of pornography? Did you speak about this to Gedolim?
Yes, I did. I'm not going to reveal to you who I spoke to, but it's a very, 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 very difficult thing to actually talk about in specifics. But let it be stated clearly that usually when it comes to Bali Tshuva, people that come who are already exposed to these issues, from the secular perspective, it is extremely important. And this I did receive from some Gedolei Yisrael, that these people have to be given very clear, explanations. Let them be able to understand the Torah approach to these issues, and that the Torah, the Chazal, the Mefarshim, the great Mefarshia Torah Sheba'al Peh, there are ways that we can explain to you, the Torah viewpoint, Torah outlook on many of these issues. The problem is that in the more religious from whether it's Beis Yaakov and Yeshivas, they are the people running the seminaries and Yeshivas, understandably so, do not want the Bachrim and the girls exposed to these topics for fear.
So here's what's interesting, Rabbi Applebaum. Okay, I can understand if somebody's going to live in a world that is truly sheltered, right? So why expose to what you don't have to? My Yisrael, what do you have from it, right?
Yeah.
And that was those who were misnagid to the Meir Nevuchim. Right, Rabbeinu Yoina, before he was Chayza b'Seif Yamav, the Rashba was misnaged to the Marav Nevuchim. Yeah. Rabbi Yankov Emden was so misnaged to it, Rabbi Yankov Emden wrote that he doesn't believe the Rambam wrote it, which is sort of a little bit funny, because it's written. When you read it, it's so incredibly brilliant, the Marav Nevuchim, you have to say only somebody like the Rambam could have written it, right? But then again, you see that, the Ramban writes that he had to write it. He says because he was a muchruch for Einis, because all the philosophers of Greece, right, stood on the heads of Klal Yisrael, and we had to respond. Right? The Radak, the Abar Benel, writes Beferish on the Merav Nevuchim, the importance of it to answer the other philosophers. The Chidah, the Shem Agdolim, all the Gedolei Chasidus were for it. One were not misnagid, except for Nachman of Breslov. So here's what I would say. I would say that, almost everything we discuss, I would say 80% of it, or 90% that we've come across, even the most controversial topics, pornography, addiction, substance abuse, these are things that are in the yeshivas today. We had on the Rosh Yeshiva saying 80%. When you have the President of the United States, right, front page of every major paper, I guess maybe not the Yated or the Mishpacha, Congress is discussing investigating him because of a relationship he had with a pornographer, with a prostitute of some type. You can't avoid it today. So like somebody like David Krongler said, like Rav Ruderman said, do you want people to discover this outside of the yeshiva, or do you want them to understand? No, Torah has a mahalach for everything. We know how to deal with every vice that you could have. The Torah is a samachayim for it. Like the Heilige Kleisenberger Rabbi said. He says when he writes about learning Nida with the Bachram, he says Me'olam lo shamanu. He said that somebody was nifka when he learns kedusha b'tahara, Torah b'tahara. He said we never heard of something like this. So where should we let it just be ignored, or should we learn it in the confines of Torah? Even, for example, learning Chayvus Halvavis was a big machlekes. It's interesting. We had a Sam Seifa who learned Hilchos Nida with the Bachram, and he didn't learn. They say the way I have it because he didn't learn Chayvus Halvavis Shara Yichud, right? So it was again a similar. That was more in Deis. He said, I guess he felt, why ask questions that maybe you'll never have. But when we live in a world, and especially these gashmiistic things, would we want a kid to be surprised by it, or do you tell a kid, when you have an iPhone in your pocket, it's like having a nuclear bomb in your pocket. It could be used for great things, but it could be very damaging. How do we want to deal with these things? I'm curious. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's interesting because you're asking the why question. The problem is. That there's no question that we have to deal with these issues. The question is, are we equipped to deal with these issues? Are we trained? Do we have the answers? I mean, if you have someone as great as Moshe Sternbach, that he writes in the Chuvas and Huggis that today we don't learn Nach, and seemingly that was the minute you first learn Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim before you learn Ben Chomish L'Mikra, which includes Tanakh, before you learn Torah Shabbat Peh, Mishnah, and Gemara. And he writes over there that today Yikabel Schar Al Aprisha, we're not equipped, that the Poishim Nasnu Yad, and he doesn't address. I think the bigger problem is we don't really have answers. You have the parashas Yehudin Tamar and Benoy Slot and David and Bathsheba. These parashas in Tanakh. How are we able to deal with it? How do we explain it? They're very, very, very difficult. There's a Barbanel, you see when he talks about the parsha himself, David Chotachet Godel, like we read, and we don't, I don't think that today the educators are not equipped to answer these questions. And it's a very, very big problem. I know my daughter, for example, in Eretz Yisrael, I don't know what it is in America. In Eretz Yisrael, it's interesting. The boys learn Mikra, in the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's interesting. Something like Yehuda and Tamar and Benoy Slot are taught to 6-year-olds. So there they tell the children, right? Yehuda married Tamar. Use the word the marriage, and they really don't go into it. The problem is the girls in the high schools here in Eretz Yisrael, Chinuch Atzmai, the girls learn Tanakh in high school. And speaking to my daughters, these parashas are totally skipped over in Torah and Nevi'im and Ksuvim, any of the difficult parashas. They just read through it very quickly, but certainly they do not explain it. And there's actually, in Eretz Yisrael especially, they almost never discuss issues. Even the word, for example, to discuss pregnancy or things like that is pretty much not discussed in the high schools. So they totally, so if a seminary or a girl in high school has a very difficult question, pretty much you hope that maybe they'll go to the parents and not answer it. And it's interesting. I think what you said is very, very good. I think that's the difference. What we teach in the schools, I think it's important. We need to have, when we're learning in the teacher training, people who are at least, we should be exposing at least the teachers in case the student comes over and has many questions, more questions than Tanakh. And Tanakh is very hard. It's interesting. I just want to mention that fascinating that the Torah, I think it's Reish Mem Vov in Yeridea, on the Gemara, Kol Malamed is Bitoi Torah Melamdo Tiflut.
Talmud Torah, yeah.
Yeah, by Talmud Torah. It's interesting. The Torah has a gears over there that it's going on Torah Shebeksav, Dafka Fuch. Torah Shebal Pez is no problem teaching women. It's not Tiflus. But Torah Shebeksav is Tiflus. I think it's the Prisha says over there because it's much easier to take Chas v'Shalom. The Torah can come Divrei Havai. And to understand that the parashas of Tanakh are very much more difficult. So there are people, Baruch Hashem, wonderful educators in the Jewish world today, who they usually speak in front of Balei Tshuva, but I think it's important to expose in the Beis Yaakovs, in the Yeshivas, even Rabbeim, and because, as you said, the Yeshivas are not immune, and these are issues that come up. And while we might not discuss it in a public forum, but there's no question that the Rabbeim and seminary teachers have to be equipped and have to get the knowledge to be able to answer these difficult topics.
Well, thank you very much, Rabbi Applebaum, for sharing your time with us.
Okay, David, thank you so much.
Kol tov,